Round one. Fight!
I want the whole thing!
Hey guys, and welcome to Tier Ranker Fights. This is episode number 25. We're coming at you with the best horror movies from 2010 until now. So I got a pretty cool panel today to talk about these horror movies, so I'm excited. So let's bring them in. I'm going to start with my co-host, Austin Pez. Howell, how's it going?
What's up, buddy? Excited to talk about horror movies once again. We're working our way through those decades. We started with the 2000s, we're into the 2010s, and then we're going to flash all the way back to some other decades. But, man, we got another great all-star panel tonight. It should be a lot of fun. Anyone who says this decade wasn't good for horror, we're going to prove you wrong tonight.
Right. Yep, exactly. And next up, we got returning guest for another horror episode, Marc Edward Heuck. How's it going?
Greetings, gentle peoples.
Hey, and also we got one more returning guest. We got Anthony Tisdall. Hey,
what's up? I'm the one here nobody actually knows. That'll be honest.
Hey, that's all right. Me and Austin are semi-unknown, so.
Hey, you were on our previous episode, so if anybody watched the previous episode, they know you from there. So there you go.
Exactly. Yep. And then we have Lon Harris.
Hey, everybody. I'm only slightly known. A very little, tiny. Yeah. You don't want to oversell how known I am. It's not that impressive.
We've got another veteran of movie fights here on Tier Ranker Fights. We had Hal Rudnick, and now we've got fact checker Lon. So,
yeah, that's
right. I don't know if he's going to be ready to fact check us tonight, but we'll see what happens.
Definitely not.
No? Okay. I got you. That's my job.
I can only do that when I'm on a couch next to Danielle Radford. Otherwise,
if I may interject, I had a beautiful fact-checking moment today on Facebook where on one of the groups I'm in, I was explaining how it was that Scream Factory is putting out The Borrower on Blu-ray, and the whole I had this concise explanation of how, okay, yes, it was Canon that picked it up, so it should belong to MGM, but it's been with Warner Brothers and such. And John McNaughton himself commented and said, I have never heard anybody put it so tightly and clearly. Thank you.
It's like Marshall McLuhan showing up in line. Like, you know nothing of my work, sir.
But he said I did know something.
Right. No, it's like you got it. You reverse Annie Hall there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And last but not least, we have Brandon the Hitman Hannah. Hey, hello. Welcome. How's it going?
Thank you. Good. I know who you are, Anthony, but not in a creepy way. I promise.
That's true. Yes. People know my wife more than me.
Nice.
So you're not going to follow up with who your wife is? Is it Emma Stone?
Christy V in the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not a horror fan, as people have noticed.
Of course not.
Yeah. I just like you're going to
lead there with that one.
Oh, people know of my wife. Duchess.
Gotta keep the mystery.
Yeah, really. Wow, I was intrigued.
So your wife, Georgia Glass.
Yeah, right. you've been holding out on us. We got to get her on as a guest. That's one of the ones that I've been kind of eyeing a little bit for a guest. So, but anyways, yeah, I'm gonna throw up these rules. We got to set up some kind of loose rules, just kind of keep some order and not make it quite so chaotic. So I'm going to throw these up here, and this is kind of how it works, and that kind of helps first timers kind of know that how things work. But let's see.
Oh, creepy.
Give me 1 second. All right.
Ooh, it's like right over my face. Look at that.
Translucent.
That's cool.
That works out. but the rules are: let's have a good, clean fight. Please do not talk or shout over each other. Please do be respectful of others' opinions. Each person will take turns to select a movie for ranking. The person who selected the movie will have 1 minute to explain which tier they think that it should go in and why. All other participants will then have 1 minute to say why they agree or disagree and may suggest a new ranking. And then the host, which is me, will decide on a ranking that averages out everyone's opinions. And at that point, we can have a little debate on where we think the final ranking should go, but yeah, we'll just kind of debate, see if where we decide is acceptable to the group, and that'll be it. So
I'm in.
Cool.
All right. So next up, I'm gonna bring up the tier ranker chart. Give me 1 quick minute.
GPS signal lost.
Okay.
Somebody driving right now?
Oh yeah.
This is a green screen. I'm hauling ass
Yes,
up to 405 right now.
Yeah, right. Yep, exactly. Right, should we be here in a second? All right. So basically, let me kind of scroll up and kind of let you know how this is going to work. So basically, we have all these different tiers, and we have S for superior, and then from there on, it just goes like grades in school. You got A, B, C, D, E, F, and then there's a little spot for if we think that maybe one of them might not be quite a horror movie, or if there's one where not enough of us have seen it, which we want each movie to be seen by at least 3 on the panel. If at least 3 of us haven't seen it, then we're going to throw it in and haven't seen, because it kind of feels like it's not enough to really give it a fair ranking. So, and then also too, in the S tier, we're allowing 10 movies to be in the S tier. So by the end of the show, we want to come with a top 10, and then also 3 honorable mention that'll be from A tier. So that's kind of how it works. But basically, besides that, we can throw as many as we want into any other tier. So, and as the host, I always I like to go last. So I always throw it to the person at the bottom of the screen. So that'd be Brandon Hanna. So you're going to be the first one to pick a movie and give it a ranking, and tell us why you think it belongs there. So I'll give it a little kind of slow scroll.
You can literally pick anything on the chart, and you can say what tier you think it belongs in, and we'll start the debate. So whatever you want, Brandon, from the list. Get us started.
This is a lot of pressure.
Right?
There is a movie I see on this list that I think, I hope many of us will agree is S tier, but that almost feels too easy. And I just did a show with Alex and Molly Damon where I promised them that I would do this. So I'm going to argue that Evil Dead 2013 belongs in the S tier.
All right. So help me. Oh, there you go. Pretty easy one to find. Stands out. So why do you think that it belongs in the S tier? What's your argument?
And I have a minute for this argument. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yep.
And then we go around the horn, and everybody can chime in as well. So you started off.
All right. Well, a lot of people call this a remake or a reboot or a reimagining. In terms of horror movies that have been remade, we've seen Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All of them, for the most part, have kind of fallen flat. But this is one that is universally known and loved as one of the greatest remakes, although you could argue it's kind of in the same universe, it's kind of adjacent, it's a reboot, but not necessarily a remake. But that's besides the point. This is such an amazing, atmospheric horror movie, and yes, there's a lot of blood and gore, and that could put some people off, but it's not to the level of torture porn. This is true Evil Dead at its finest. It's a movie that takes itself very seriously, but has underlying tones of campiness and cheese that make it align with the original, that give it that same Evil Dead spirit, that same Evil Dead energy. And I would have to say the practical effects are absolutely amazing, the cinematography, the performances. But for me, that third act of the film is like chef's kiss, like such an amazing closing act to a movie. Probably the greatest third act to a horror movie, in my personal opinion, that I have ever seen. Obviously, like spoilers for this movie, the chainsaw to the demon's face right at the end, the slicing in half, the blood rain, Jane Levy's performance is absolutely incredible. It is such a satisfying Evil Dead movie, but also just a satisfying horror movie. I think this movie gives you everything that you want and need out of a horror movie, and I can't say enough amazing things about it.
All right. Yeah, that's a pretty good argument for S tier. We'll throw it to Lon. What do you think about Evil Dead? Where would you rank it in? What do you think?
I'm a big fan of this movie. I watched this movie at South by Southwest, like at the premiere. Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi were sitting right near me, and I had eaten way too much of a weed cookie, so I had to go back and rewatch this months later because I had a very strange experience with it the first time through. But it's very good. It's very intense. I don't know if I would say S tier. To me, this feels like more of an A or a B tier. It's a very good remake. I was kind of hoping that it was going to add more to the concept or to the mythology or to the franchise. It really does a good job of taking the first Raimi film and kind of bringing it into our own era. And it's one of those movies that I think really benefits from comparison. There aren't a lot of other movies doing practical effects like this. There aren't a lot of movies that are purely for the gore hounds, that are like, we're going to create these like really unnerving, like to me, it's not even necessarily the most like viscerally upsetting, violent moment, but it's the shower, the boiling water shower. It's just such a memorable, awful visual of her skin like sluicing away because of the burns. Or I guess it's a him. I don't remember. Anyway, I don't know. To me, to really move this into an S tier, it would be like it's adding something that we didn't get from any of the Raimis. It's taking things further. It's setting up future films in a way that I don't know that it really was doing. But I like it very much.
Well, if you had to get a ranking, would you give it A or B? What would you give it? Just
I would throw this. I think I would throw this in the A tier myself as opposed to S.
I'm just keeping track. That's all, so we can come to a consensus. So, Anthony, yes, sir, you're up. What do you think?
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, I agree with a lot of what Lon just said. I love the Evil Dead franchise. I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. I was really worried when I first saw it was coming out, and when I first was going to see it, I was like, please don't ruin everything that the Evil Dead gave me, because I love every one of those movies. They're all fun. They're campy. They have like ridiculous gore, but this one really shocked me. The gore is there, but I didn't even feel like it was as overdone, as more realistic as it was than the original Evil Dead's. Like Brandon said, Jane Levy's great. I mean, just fantastic, and I enjoyed it. I would put this in S tier. This was one of the ones I was going to put in S tier. It was probably actually going to be my first pick as well. So thank you for taking that away and making my next decision even more difficult. But this one goes S tier for me. I really enjoy this movie, and I love everything Evil Dead.
Excellent.
All right, awesome. Yeah, Mark.
I am not as high on the movie as everyone else is. I would give it a B, but I do really like this. I was pleasantly surprised by what it did, and what I liked the most is the way that it definitely veers away from the aesthetic that Raimi had in all of his movies. And I don't know if this was something that was injected when this was first being scripted by Diablo Cody. Obviously, her name is not on it, so I don't know if any of her material survived. But the redemption arc in the third act, where it kind of turns the tables on the predictability and brings a character back around, it reminded me of the dynamic in Jennifer's Body. The idea of no matter how gloomy things have gotten, that someone is devoted to another person to the point where they are going to put their life on the line on the belief that no, not even all the forces of darkness can completely claim this individual, and that's something that really struck a chord with me. And so this has always been a favorite. I can't put it in S tier, but it's a good solid B.
All right. Well, Austin.
I really like Evil Dead. This is one I had a chance to rewatch this week. I hadn't seen it since the theater, and I'm glad I did. This movie is absolutely bonkers crazy, and I had forgotten how over the top it gets and how bloody it gets, but it gets bloody pretty quick. Like 20-30 minutes into the movie, the blood is flowing pretty heavily. I like what Fede Alvarez did with it. To me, it just doesn't quite hit S, only because I think the original series had that tinge of humor to it that this one doesn't even lean to really a little bit. I mean, it kind of just plays it almost completely straight the entire time, and you kind of laugh at it just for how over the top and bloody it does get. But to me, it just needed a little bit more humor, maybe a little bit, to almost kind of smooth sail with the other series. To me, I really like it. It's like a strong A, like an A+, and that's kind of where I put it.
All right. And for me, I actually have to abstain from giving a ranking because I'm a little behind on some of my horror movies. So I had a small list of ones I was going to try and get to, and I didn't quite get to it this week. I've been working 3 jobs, so I'm a little busy. But also, too, I'm not a huge fan of like buckets and buckets of blood either. Like maybe 1 bucket. I mean, that could be okay. Maybe 2, but like just bucket after bucket. I'm like, I don't know if that's really my cup of tea as much. So I'm gonna abstain. So yeah, that'll be it for me.
Yeah.
Well, we had 2 S's, 2 A's, and a B. So unfortunately, I think Marc's B drags it down to the top of A, is kind of where it drags it down to consensus-wise.
That's A.
So as of right now.
Challenge.
Now to be fair, Brandon,
right?
now we end up having 10 in the S tier. Now sometimes we have to bump things up from A to S at the end of the show, or it could make the honorable mentions. So fear not, there's still a good chance it makes it in.
And I just want to say the score to the movie is absolutely incredible as well. Something I forgot to say earlier, but it deserves credit in this show. So great score.
Cool.
All right, Lon, you're up,
Mr. Harris.
All right. Well, I'll pick, as long as we're starting at the top. Brandon picked one of his favorites from here. I'll do the same. My absolute number 1 with a bullet off of this entire list, Mandy. So let's talk about Mandy, the Nicolas Cage. I honestly, as much a fantasy adventure film as a horror film, which is why I love it so much. It's right in the nexus of a bunch of different genres and experiences I love at the movies. But more than anything else, what I love about Mandy is that it completely transports you without putting a real fine point on it, without doing a lot of like world building. It completely transports you into an alternate reality. Like none of the pop culture, none of the products, none of the locations, everything in Mandy is like some alternate realm or universe from ours, but like only slightly, and you have to kind of pay attention to see where our reality and the world of Mandy kind of start to overlap or start to move apart from each other. And just the way that it creates its own world with its own rules and then operates within them is so exciting, while it's also being just a very cool and effective action revenge horror film. So it's a real like descent into madness sort of visual feast, and one of the great uses of Nicolas Cage in modern film. I got to go with Mandy.
All right, sounds good. Then Anthony, what do you think of Mandy?
I was just picking ones I love. Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. If you watch anything in like the fan league area, you're gonna know that I am a huge Nicolas Cage fan. I talk about him in almost every match and every show I'm on. I love him, and this is one of those movies that he kind of came back when he had a string of 3 really good movies of Mom and Dad, another one on this list, and Mandy that I really enjoy. And this was great. It was perfect vehicle for Nick Cage. Like he did a great job in this movie, and like Lon said, it had kind of that fantasy element, a sort of a weird kind of sci-fi type thing, but then the action, adventure, the thriller, the revenge, and the horror of it all worked really well. It wasn't over the top with like gore and stuff like that, like The Evil Dead was, but it just worked really well, and I appreciate the fact that it brought Nicolas Cage back into my life in a way that I needed. So it does go S tier because this is one of my favorite films of the 2010s in general.
All right, we got 2 for S. Mark, what do you think? For Mandy.
I am giving this an S as well. It's a tremendous visual sonic experience, and something that rarely gets talked about is I don't know how many people stay to the bitter end to see the little post-credits cookie, but that little bit of footage recontextualizes the movie in a way that I think makes it even better, because someone once wrote that one of the reasons why Pineapple Express is such an effective action comedy is that it feels like the kind of movie that a couple of stoners watching television would imagine themselves having an adventure in. And Mandy feels like the kind of story that, a shy and unassuming girl who's into comics and heavy metal would imagine. It's like a bedtime story she created for how much her boyfriend loves her, that if a terrible thing ever happened, he would just go balls out bloody to avenge her memory.
Yep, definitely. Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, I like Mandy a lot. Not quite into the S tier for me, only because there's another movie that Anthony kind of alluded to with Nick Cage that I would put in the S tier above this one that I got a chance to see in the theater. And it may be, for me, it's because I got to see one in the theater and one I didn't get a chance to see in the theater. Maybe that theater experience kind of bumped up the other one for me over the other one, because I didn't get to see this until at home. I turned out the lights. I heard it was absolutely gorgeous, and it feels like a fever dream. It surely does feel like a fever dream a lot with the way that it looks and the cinematography and the score and everything. To me, why it doesn't quite reach that level is, while I do love it when it does get crazy, it takes a little too long for me to get there. Like, it takes it feels the length of the movie for me. And I just wanted to kind of get there just a little bit quicker for me, but it's like a strong A for me personally. Again, I really like this movie. There's a lot of A's on this list that I really like. I just have to be honest with myself about what I would put in the S tier. So for me, it's an A.
And you guys keep doing it. It's another one of my blind spots. So I don't have a lot, but you just happen to just choose the blind spot. So I mean, I can't really say anything. But I will say that I'm a massive Nick Cage fan. So this is one that's high on my list. I'll probably watch this.
I gave Jordan a list of ones he needed to watch, and to be fair, he just didn't have time to get to Mandy, but Mandy was on the list along with Evil Dead. So I gave him a list of ones.
I don't have time in the day.
Enough time to get there. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I am doing this on purpose. I'm definitely going for the ones make you look dumb on your own show. That's my goal.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
Brandon.
But Brandon, what do you think?
I was gonna say I was gonna keep up with the trend of being the last person who has to abstain, because I've also not seen Mandy. Unfortunately,
guys,
I'm not the only one.
Spots as well.
So good. Jeez.
It's so good.
It's really good.
But hey, with 3 A's and an S, it stays an S. Or excuse me, 3 S's and an A, it stays an S. Yeah. So there you go.
We did it.
Yep, you got one in S.
We got 4 out of 5.
I feel like I should log out now and leave on a high note. Like,
Yep.
You guys have been great.
Pull a Costanza and leave right now. Yeah.
Yep.
I understood that reference.
So now we'll throw it over to Anthony.
Mr. Anthony, well, he took your pick, so do you have a backup?
I mean, I have like 18 backups on here. Have you seen this list?
Sure, right.
No,
really good.
Go for one that's, I mean, if you enjoy horror movies, this basically encompasses every horror movie ever and has a wonderful comedy element to it. And when I watched this movie, it was one of my favorite movies of all time immediately. And that would be Cabin in the Woods needs to go S tier. Because if there's a movie that just personifies what a horror movie is, it's this, because it basically shows every single horror movie, every trope of a horror movie, and it gives you some sort of background of, hey, why in all these slasher flicks are they just really dumb? Like, why do they always do the worst possible option at a time? And it comes up with a very creative way, and it has, like, the background scenes are great with Bradley Whitford and whatever the other guy's name is. I forgot at the moment. But they're great. And all the characters are just fantastic, and it's a really creative way. And I love the whole ending. I love when the purge button comes out. That's one of the best scenes ever, when you just see every horror monster of all time just in one spot. So Cabin in the Woods, I love this movie. I think it needs to go S tier. That's my pitch. Let's see what everyone else thinks.
All right. Well, Mark, what do you think?
I can't quite give it S tier because I do like the film. In fact, I saw it 3 times in its opening weekend, or I should say I saw it twice in the opening weekend and then saw it a third time like a week later. The first time I saw it, I hated it, but I gave it another shot, because I felt like initially it was too hip for the room, but then it kind of dawned on me that it was taking a direct hit at people who felt they were too hip for the room and kind of indicting that very attitude that it's that not with the same ferocity of something like Hanukkah's Funny Games, but it's saying this is what you wanted, isn't it? And that the very end of the movie where it's just absolute chaos that shows, well, see, this is what would happen if you actually let people with too much attitude have their way. So I would give it a solid A, but I'm not going to give it the S.
Okay, well, Austin, what do you think?
Well, Anthony, you stole my pick. This is my favorite horror movie of the decade. This is my S tier with a bullet. Cabin in the Woods is a movie I've probably watched this 30 times since it came out. I love this movie so much. I have showed this movie to so many people, told them not to learn anything about it, just watch it. I haven't done this with a lot of movies. I've dissected every piece of behind the scenes material or commentary or anything you could possibly watch about this movie, because there's so many things that didn't even make it into the movie that were so great. I mean, like the creatures that didn't even make an on-screen appearance, they had like a blob and pixies and like all kinds of silly things that didn't even make it in. This movie is such a love letter to horror movies, and you could tell they just had a blast writing it. And it even works on its own as a horror movie, even without the controlling elements. I think even that stuff is solid. And I know somebody was saying the best third act of a movie. No, this is the best third act of a movie that's ever been. It's a movie I also, Marc, saw twice opening weekend. I saw a midnight show on Friday, went immediately the next night to see it again. I literally, I'm not even joking, gave it a standing ovation in the theater the first time I saw it. I loved this movie so much. It's a S tier with a bullet for me. I love it.
Well, this one I actually have seen before, so
yeah.
Please pick one I've seen. Please pick one I've seen. So yeah, Cabin in the Woods is awesome, and I just really watched it all the way through actually for the first time this week. I've seen bits and pieces here and there, but for whatever reason, I was either with friends and we like weren't really paying attention, or for whatever reason, or it might have been on in the background kind of thing. But yeah, this movie is awesome, especially the last like third of the movie. It's just like absolutely incredible. We'll probably go ahead and give it an S tier, but I don't know if I would put it at the top of S tier, just because for how awesome the last third of the movie is. Like the beginning was still a little slow for me, and also too it's just so dark, and it's one of those horror movies that's like so dark for so long that you have to squint to see what's on screen and that kind of thing. So that just kind of slightly takes me out of it, but that's just a little nitpick. It's not like a huge deal breaker. I still give it an S tier, but at the very end of this, we are going to actually rank just the S tier. So I'd put it a little lower on the S tier, but I'll still give it an S. So, but Brandon, what do you think?
For me, I really enjoy this movie like everybody else. I don't think I can quite give it an S, and no, it's not just me being bitter because it's commentary on the movie that my S tier movie is a remake of. Okay? But no, I really, nope. I really do. I love and enjoy this movie, but for me, it is a solid A. Everything you guys were saying about it, it's commentary on the horror genre and all the various tropes that we've come to know and love throughout the years, and the horror elements, the comedic elements, everything just works so well together. This is really like a really top tier horror comedy film, and it's super fun to watch on repeat. But for me, it just quite misses hitting S. I would put it in A tier.
All right, Lon, what do you think?
I'm just going to come in and echo what Brandon just said. That's almost exactly how I feel. I feel like in the horror comedy balance, this is a really terrific, insightful parody of horror movies that I'm not quite sure ever rises to the level of just being a great horror movie without the commentary, without the satire. Like, it really is. It's a discussion about horror movies as opposed to being a horror movie. So I would knock it from S to A on that basis. That I think it's really fun. I think it's very insightful. I think it's super clever. I'm just not sure it's as effective just in terms of being a horror movie as some of the stuff that I would put in the S tier.
Right. And I do want to point out too that I guess it's the like known thing that like Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon sat down in a weekend and just banged out the entire script for the movie. So I think that's pretty incredible for just a weekend to come up with something that amazing. I don't know how they did it, but somehow they did it. So yeah. But
well, Jordan, we had 3 S's and 3 A's, and when we have a tie, we give a slight edge to the person who nominated it, which is Anthony, and he put it in the S tier, so it just nudges over into S. So that's where it stays for now.
Just squeaks in. All right.
Okay.
Just squeaks in.
I like it. So we'll throw it over to Mark. You're up.
Okay.
You want to pick?
Yeah. This. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm going to nominate Crawl for S tier. I thought this was just beautifully efficient, tight, frightening filmmaking that just gets off to a quick start and just keeps building and ratcheting up the tension and the fear, and does not stop until it is absolutely over. That every time that it already, I mean, it starts in the middle of a flood and adds an croc, a reptile, whatever, and it's and then water and teeth and death, and just keeps going. I don't want to say there's no levity, because there is, but I'm saying you never get a chance to breathe in this movie. You are just exhausted when this thing is over, and that's the kind of intensity that I appreciate in an exceptional horror film. So I've got to tip my hat to Crawl.
They're Gators. It's a Gator movie.
Okay.
They're Florida Gators, baby. Florida Gators from Gainesville, literally.
Yeah. Well, Austin, what do you think?
This is one I just watched this week. This is one I missed in theaters, but I got a chance to watch it this week to make sure I had seen it. To me, it's like a strong B. I really liked it. The movie is... Our main characters, the dad and the daughter, they take a beating in this movie. Like, they do not get out unscathed. I mean, this is a slight spoiler. One of them loses an arm. They're getting chomped up every 2 seconds. They're nearly drowning left and right. The only thing that kind of keeps me from bumping it up from a B is I think the story does wear a little thin after an hour or so. They're trying every kind of conceit to get it to stretch to even that 85-minute mark. And I think there's a few characters they introduce, especially there's a group that's just robbing like an ATM from a gas station that is literally just there to pad the body count. And that's all it is, because we're mainly focusing in on 2 main characters. And I think it's just it's kind of a forgotten little point. But I mean, I do enjoy it. I think it's a really solid afternoon, 85 minutes. You will be very much entertained, but it doesn't get a whole lot above that for me. So to me, it's like a B+, like a strong B.
All right. Well, I gotta hand it to you guys. You guys got some serious skill, because I swear that I've seen most of these movies, but I've not seen Crawl either. So that's another one. Huh? So 3 out of 4 I have not seen, so I can't really say much. I mean, it looks cool. I mean, I want to see it, but I haven't. But we'll throw it to Brandon. What do you think?
Jordan, you and I must be on the same page, because I've also missed out on Crawl. I will say, Marc speaking so highly of it makes me really want to watch it as soon as I can.
Well, then get ready for this, because I also think Crawl belongs in the S tier. It's right here on my own personal list. The thing that, and Marc touched on this, but the thing that's so amazing is that it really is a very tight screenplay. It's a dramatic story. It's about two people hiding in a sinking house that's flooding full of gators, but there really is like an internal conflict. There's a relationship between the dad and daughter, and it really is playing out dramatically. For Screen Junkies, we go through, we break down a lot of movies because we're doing honest trailers and these videos about them. And a lot of the time, our notes on big mainstream films, especially horror, are like, well, this isn't really motivated, or like they never really explore why this character would do this. We just kind of accept it because of the genre. Well, it's horror. They have to go to the spooky mansion. They have to go to the sinking house or whatever. But in this case, in Crawl, you really get in the heads of the characters. It's really a psychological sort of horror film as much as it is about don't get chomped by the alligator. And that's really rare and special. And I really appreciate that about this movie. So I'm a big fan of this one. I think it's really underrated.
All right, awesome. Anthony, what do you think?
I really do enjoy this movie. This was one of those that I think I was wandering through like Target, and it was just like, these are alligators in a flood attacking people. I mean, I'm going to try it, obviously. It just seems like my style of movie. I don't know if I put it in the S tier. It would be in a high A. I mean, I'd probably have it just a little bit behind The Evil Dead on what we have here. But it is a really good, really quick, fun, entertaining, and just well-done movie for something that you see that cover when you're wandering through a store and you're like, all right, what kind of B-movie level stuff is this? Then you watch it, you're like, oh, that was actually really well done. Like, shockingly so. So I would put it in the A tier. It is a great movie. It is really well done. Not as high as the other three that we have up there, in my opinion, but I do see where everyone's going from with S tier for it, because it is a really well done, quick, solid movie.
Yeah, for sure. So, Austin, did you say B? I can't remember. Did you say A?
We had 2 S's, an A, and a B. So unfortunately, I think it drops it down to the top of A for right now, for the moment.
Then we'll kind of see where it lands by the end of the show.
But pretty strong for a little 85-minute alligator in a house movie. I mean, that's pretty strong, high praise.
Yep.
And much love to the director who did another movie that I love called Piranha 3D that I think is a lot of fun that I almost fought to put on the list, but I kind of let it slide. So
probably.
There's only time for.
He's got a new one on Netflix that I haven't seen yet called Oxygen. Alexandre Aja, French filmmaker.
Right
he
on.
also did High Tension. You guys remember High Tension? That's
yes.
Yep.
Yeah. I love 2/3 of that movie.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we'll just say that obviously we have a ton of movies on this list. We're not going to make it to every single one, but we have a decent list to pull from. At the 2-hour mark, we'll call it good, but we'll see what we can get to it by then. So yeah, we're going to give it a shot to get through as many as we can, though. So Austin, you're up.
All right, so I'm going to pick one that I just revisited today, and it's going to be yet another cabin in the woods type movie. Literally, there's a cabin in the woods, but mine goes full-on comedy, and I think it's the best horror comedy of this decade. That's Tucker and Dale versus Evil for S tier.
Right.
On the left column. There you go.
Yeah. All right.
Now, you want to talk about taking every trope you can do in a horror movie, but playing it to full-on comedic effect, and literally a series of out-of-control mishaps and misunderstandings that lead to an absolute massacre in the middle of the woods. This is where it is. I think Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk give phenomenal performances as these two kind of backwoods guys who are not as hillbilly as they come off. There's just such wonderful premises in here where, these college teens just think they're creepy just because they're taking all these things out of context. There's a brilliant scene where Alan Tudyk is getting swarmed by bees and he happens to have a chainsaw, so he's swinging it all over the place and running through the woods, and they think they're literally being chased by these killers, and it's people diving into wood chippers trying to tackle the people. I mean, it's a bonkers movie that plays up the comedy to such a high degree. I think it's really, really smart. It takes all the stereotypes of horror movies and just turns them on their head and just goes full on comedy with it. I mean, if we can put Shaun of the Dead in a top 10 list on our previous decade, I think we have to represent a full on comedy in this one. And to me, it's Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I would just pretty much echo everything that you just said. It's a great movie. I mean, we gotta have at least some like straight up comedy on the list for sure. So I think this one is a great one to represent the like comedy horror genre. And yeah, I had so much fun watching this movie. And Tyler Labine for me is just kind of one of those underrated actors that like should be in a lot more things because he's great. I mean, I've seen him in a few TV shows that I love him in, and also Alan Tudyk. I mean, just like the way that there's like one mishap after the next, and like it's like I thought that like seeing it like I wouldn't think that it would actually work, but the more and more that I watched like the mayhem and things go wrong over and over again, like I just loved it. I loved it every second. So I would say S tier for sure. I'll give it a solid S. So, Brandon, what do you think?
For me, this movie falls very similarly in line with Cabin in the Woods. It's really, really great horror comedy. It balances both nicely. This one, a little more on the comedic side than Cabin in the Woods. This is a really funny, charming, like well-paced, well-written film that I really enjoy. But as far as like, you know, what Lon said about like putting a movie that's not like a true like horror movie in the S tier is it's a little hard for me. That's like my own personal bias that I have to deal with. But I think it's a very, very, very solid A because, you know, I've seen Cabin in the Woods a handful of times. I've seen Tucker and Dale vs. Evil once or twice. And as much as I love it, it's not one that I constantly want to revisit like I do with some of the other movies on this list that I would put S tier. So for that reason, I'm going to have to say it's an A for me.
All right. Well, Lon, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably put this in a B. It's definitely the performances. I think that what stands out, like what I recall thinking back to this movie immediately, is that Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk performances. They're good. It's I like how they are playing these types and these characters, but they are bringing that extra level of depth, and that's what you get with, you know, sort of a more like there would be a tendency to play these guys really broad, and they bring a lot of humanity and individuality to them, and that's what I really recall about the movie. I mean, it's a clever setup. They do a good job with it. I don't know if I loved the sort of premise as much as sort of the rest of you guys. I thought it was kind of like clever, but, you know, maybe a little pleased with itself clever. But I do remember really liking those characters and feeling like these guys really got in Tucker and Dale's heads in a way that is satisfying. So I would probably put it like at the low A, high B range.
All right. Sounds good. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to have to kind of go with what they said. I love this movie. Don't get me wrong. I love this movie. I can rewatch it over and over again. Alan Tudyk is another one of my favorite actors, completely underrated. I love him in everything he does. But this movie, as much as I said Cabin in the Woods was S tier, but that had more horror elements. Tucker and Dale's a lot more comedy elements. And for this being a horror list, I would also put it in the A just because it is an incredibly well done movie. It is very funny. And a lot of the stuff you can see in other horror movies, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that in a horror movie. And they just completely flipped it on its head and make it a comedy. And I appreciate that from it. So I would put it in the A tier. As much as I do enjoy this movie, it doesn't have the horror elements of Cabin in the Woods. It goes more comedy than Cabin in the Woods has the horror elements. So I'll move it down a little bit out of the S.
Right. All right. Well, then, Mark, what do you think?
Well, I mean, everybody else has kind of summed up my feelings that I've got to go with what Lon said and have it in the low A, high B tier. It's a very amiable, likable movie with, terrific performances and very funny. And, you know, if I find out someone hasn't seen it, I'll watch it with them tonight. But as far as actual horror goes, I don't think it's frightening enough in the moments where it's trying to go for that kind of scare that it has the balance. I think of it almost completely as a comedy rather than a comedy horror film. So, so I can't really give it the S rating.
Well, it sounds like
it gets based on the thing. It bumps down to about mid A is kind of where it bumps down to. So maybe somewhere around Evil Dead in there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it there for now. Yeah, that sounds
right.
about right. So yeah. So now it's my turn
host,
to pick.
Jordan is up. Now you can pick something you've seen.
Right, exactly. So from the list that I have seen, which is like still most of these movies, but I want to go with one that I was very, very surprised with, and what actually hooked me was seeing the trailer for it. I thought that the trailer was absolutely amazing for this movie, but I got to go with Doctor Sleep. So I'm a huge fan of The Shining. I think that Doctor Sleep did kind of what you want out of a sequel, that it took elements from the original movie, but then it added to it. And so he added new characters. You get to see what Danny Torrance is up to all these years later. And I just thought that it was a fun ride. I love the villain that they have with Rose the Hat. I mean, and also some of the cast that you see pop up there. You have Jacob Tremblay pops up, Bruce Greenwood, Cliff Curtis. So like, I like seeing those guys, and they're great for the roles that they played. And like, I thought that the whole story, the whole premise, how he kind of connected with the little girl too. I thought that was a fun element. So I mean, I'd give it an S tier all the way. It's one of those movies that I actually saw twice opening weekend, because I was working at a movie theater at the time. And actually, I want to kind of show a little thing that I got from my time working in the movie theater. So this here is a giant, I don't know if you can see it well on the camera, but it's a giant kind of vinyl poster that actually hang in movie theaters. So let's see. But yeah, so I don't know where I'm going to hang this. It's way too big to go in my home right now. So I got to figure something out to hang it on the side of my house or something like that. But yeah, so
that's a move.
Look at that.
Great score.
Oh yeah, the scores is
well, no, you scored that that vinyl
it,
miler thing. You know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like you had a great
score too. Yeah, right.
Caught me off guard as well.
Yeah, but I give it S tier. So Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I am in full agreement on this one. This movie 100% belongs in S tier. Coming into this ranking, it was this and Evil Dead for me that I'm like, these two I have to argue S tier. This is such an incredible film. It serves not only as an amazing sequel to the Stanley Kubrick Shining that we all love, but it's also such an amazing adaptation of the Stephen King novel. And it's a movie that Mike Flanagan had to do the impossible and appease both the Kubrick and King estates and Stephen King himself and all that, and make this movie work harmoniously with something that was once a film that Stephen King despised, but he actually ends up really enjoying this one because it is such a great film. It works so well. It seems to me like Mike Flanagan was able to do the impossible, and it's such a beautifully well-made film from top to bottom, on like a technical level, on a performance level, on a writing level. And I love the changes that they made to this movie in regards to how much of a faithful adaptation it is to the novel. I think the changes that they make really make this like such a, it kind of like corrects some of the changes that were made in The Shining without like giving too much away. It makes the whole package of the double feature of these two movies work really well together, but also serve the true spirit of Stephen King's writings. It's a masterpiece in a lot of ways, top to bottom. So S tier, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Lon, what do you think?
I'm a big fan of this movie. I to echo what Brandon said, I think it does an incredible job of bringing together the book, The Shining, and the movie, which didn't even necessarily seem possible. I mean, there are some big divergences, and I really admire that. And I love the Ewan McGregor performance. I think it was sort of underappreciated how hard that must have been to sort of take Danny Torrance, who's such an iconic character, but in such a narrow way, and to sort of open him up while still echoing. You can tell, this does feel like that little boy grown up. Having said all that, to me, this feels like a little bit more of an A than an S. I think some of the elements of bringing some of the Overlook into the modern context, they play a little cheesy, like 10% cheesier than I wish they did. Some of the ghosts, some of the third act Overlook stuff, I really like it. I'm very curious also how this would have played if we had never had Ready Player One, that also revisited the Overlook like months before this came out, which kind of blunted the impact of going back there. But Yeah, it's a really good movie. I don't know if I would quite. There's actually a Flanagan film on this list that I think I might put a little higher than Dr. Sleep.
Yes,
We'll see.
yes.
We'll see if that one comes up in a little bit. But big fan of this one. I would put this at the higher end of the A's.
Yeah, sounds about right. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Lon on this. I do enjoy this movie a lot, but I think one thing that kind of, start pay attention.
Yep, exactly. This is what you need to watch, these movies.
I did enjoy the movie. I think the problem was I read the book basically right before I saw the movie, and the book is I like the book a little bit better than the movie because the movie did have to take stuff from the Stanley Kubrick Shining, so it takes away from the original Shining book, so it kind of changes it a little bit. That would probably be the reason I didn't like it as much as I probably could have. But Rebecca Ferguson is absolutely fantastic as the villain. She's one of the best characters in the thing. Ewan McGregor did do a great job. I would be with Lon, put it in a little bit of the higher A. I don't think I would put it into the S tier, but probably if I would have saw this without reading the book, it would have been up there. But it really was like a 2-week period from finishing the book, watching the movie, and just kind of, I think, took a little bit out for me.
Okay. Well, Mark, what do you think?
I have to abstain. I did not get around to seeing Dr. Sleep.
Oh. Well, then we'll just jump right over to Austin then.
Yeah, I give this one again, kind of like Lon and Anthony, kind of like a strong A. Because to me, The Shining is like S tier, and this is like a really good sequel, but not quite like there. So I kind of, when I make that comparison, it needs to be as good as The Shining to be S level for me, and it's not quite there, but it's really, really good. I think the one scene I just have to point out where they're sucking the life out of that little kid from the baseball team is one of the most unnerving, disturbing scenes I've seen in a horror movie in the last few years. Just the way he's like screaming and in peril, like it really got under my skin. So like kudos to Flanagan, like the way he shot that. It's really, really good. Again, up until it gets wonky in that third act. When I see Henry Thomas playing Jack Nicholson, it kind of took me out of the movie, and it's like it's a little too much just kind of retreading that sort of stuff. But I really enjoyed like 2/3 of it, and it's a really strong A for me. Just doesn't quite reach up into that S.
Well, I think with that, the consistent.
We had 2 S's and 3 A's, so it gets bumped down to like top A, high A. Mm-hmm.
So I'll throw it right there for now, and we will throw it back to Brandon. You're up again, so go ahead and pick one.
What do I do here? Do I go the S route? Do I go with the route?
You could talk about one you don't like so much, or one you think it's mediocre. You can go for whatever you want.
Yep.
You know, I'm gonna have to say, I'm gonna go. Happy Death Day should be an A tier.
All right. That's it. I know. There we go. What do you think A tier?
I really enjoy this movie. Obviously, you know, kind of like I talked about with Cabin in the Woods and Tucker Dale vs. Evil, there is some comedic elements to it. There's like some almost like parody elements to it. The way it kind of does the whole Groundhog Day thing with this movie, with the tree experiencing the same day over and over again. But it's such, I think, a well-made film, a really enjoyable film. It works as a slasher film. It works as a comedy. It works on so many different levels. It is, to me, a really enjoyable movie with, I think, personally, franchise potential. I really love the sequel too, and I hope we get a third down the road, although it's like unlikely. But Happy Death Day was such a pleasant surprise. It seemed like it was going to be, you know, one of those Blumhouse movies that like makes a small profit, but at the end of the day isn't something that, you know, we're going to write home about, like a Truth or Dare type situation or something like that, perhaps. But really, really great, solid comedic slasher film that kind of puts a little twist on a genre, a type of movie that we've seen before, but gives it, I think, a different take. And without it being too tired, it still finds a way to be fresh and inventive and original, even though it is taking elements from so many different tropes that we've seen in so many different movies before.
Yeah, for sure. And we got Sabrina chiming in here. She's a little sad about Doctor Sleep. Same with me. Like, you're of my own
We're on
heart.
the same
So,
page, all three of us.
yep. Yeah, but
Had to be done.
This- but still in the honorable mention territory, and there's a
We're
chance
tough
for it
but
to get bumped up, So we'll see where it lands. But Lon, what do you think about Happy Death Day?
I mean, I like it. I think I would probably have it more at a B than an A. To me, it's really a little bit like what I was saying about Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's a performance movie. Jessica Roth is really charming in that role as Tree, and I think kind of makes it work. I did not love the kind of riff on Groundhog Day as much. It just sort of felt like once you got it, you kind of got it. I think the solution to what's really happening is kind of dumb and a little silly, and I think that it probably would have worked better if the premise is so outrageous, but you take the other than the craziness of the time loop. I feel like if everything else was a little bit more grounded, that would probably work better instead of it not only being a time loop movie, but also in this weirdly heightened, peculiar world that she's in. I don't know if that worked as well for me. So it was really the strength of the Jessica Roth performance. When I watched this, I was like, oh, she's going to be in tons of stuff now. She's terrific. I don't know if I felt the same way about the movie. So I'd probably put this more in the B tier.
All right, we got to vote for B. Anthony, what do you think?
I think I'm happy where it is. I think right there is good. I do believe it's an A-tier movie. I really enjoyed this movie. I think the second one might be ranked higher because the sequel was better, in my opinion. It was really good, but I like the idea of it. The time loop, yeah, it's a riff on Groundhog Day, but riff on Groundhog Day with the horror, with the murder, so like a thriller, a mystery. You're trying to solve the crime, and like Lon said, Jessica Roth was amazing in this. I watched this a couple times, and I introduced it to Christina over Halloween, and she was in. She's like, this movie's great. Let's watch the sequel immediately after. And then she was like, I'm in for both. When's the third one coming out? And then I researched and found out I don't know when.
Never.
But don't do that to me. I want a third. Just give me one.
Fingers
more.
crossed.
But I think where it is good. I really enjoy it, but it does have a lot more comedic elements than the horror elements. But A tier, yes. Back of the A tier, good with that.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, what do you think?
Well, I'm putting it in the B tier. I'm not, no knocks on it. I think it even has legitimately frightening moments. I think it is a horror comedy that doesn't skimp on the horror because it still has a plot to unravel, even as everything as all the comedy is taking place.
Anyways,
go on, Mark. Yeah, Jessica is terrific, and it's a very nuanced performance because it's all about like Groundhog Day, personal growth and rehabilitation, and going through all of these different stages to fix what's wrong with you, and be the kind of person that you don't want to see get killed off, as opposed to the type that always gets killed off in a movie like this. So I guess maybe I have it at B simply because as much as I enjoy it's in terms of actual horror, it's a little slight.
All right. Well, Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for a good time loop movie or a time loop episode of a TV show or any of that kind of stuff. And this is a pretty good one. I would give it like a B+. I think it's really, really fun, a fun kind of midnight movie, really solid. I love the character arc you get with Jessica Ross's character, where she starts out pretty unlikable and then you grow to very much and appreciate her and like her over the course of the movie. And I like even the smaller moments in the film where she's using the time loop to appreciate the time she has spending with her parents, going to that lunch or dinner or whatever it is in the movie a couple of times, and just really embracing that time she has. So I like almost those elements in the movie more than the horror elements. So for me, that's kind of why it kind of bumps it down just slightly for me. But I do very much enjoy it. It's like a B+, a strong B.
All right. And for me, I would say that for a classic time loop style movie, I'd give it an S tier for that. But we're talking horror movies here, and and it does do some fun horror things and plays on a lot of horror tropes. But at the same time, though, like I don't think that it kind of lives up to the horror that a lot of these other movies do. So for that, I got to drop it down to A. But that's no slight on the movie because I absolutely love this movie. So when I first saw it, like immediately, like a few days after, I made my wife watch it, and she's not big into horror movies, but I made her watch it because I'm like, this movie's awesome. You're gonna like it because it has so much more than just horror in the movie. So and she actually really did like it. So for that though, I mean, I can't quite give it an S. I give it a solid A, but I do want to echo that Jessica Roth, or however you say her last name, Roth. Yeah, she is going to be a star. Like I think that we're going to see her in so many more things. So I loved her performance. So yeah, we'll throw it over to Brandon. What do you think?
Well, Brandon nominated it, so we had a tie. So we had 3 A's and 3 B's, and giving the edge to Brandon. I think it stays exactly where it is, right in the low A, pretty much exactly where it is right now. So there you go.
I think that's solid. So yeah, we'll throw it back to Lon. So you're up. What do you?
All right, I'm gonna pull another S here. Why not? We're got a limited time. Why not talk about our favorite stuff? So I'm going to pick, there's 2 Ari Aster films on here. I love them both. I'm really of 2 minds about which way to go on this one. But I'm going to go with Midsommar just because it's the more recent and maybe fresher in my mind. I argue that this is S tier. I love that Ari Aster makes films and they are horror films, but they're always character focused. It's never like they're in a mansion and there's a ghost and you got to do these 3 things to get rid of the ghost. It's never that kind of a horror film. It's always like the horror is existing. And we're going to watch this character exist and go through the trauma that is life in this sort of like heightened scenario. And the way that, first of all, the way that Midsommar sort of upends all of our thoughts about aesthetics in horror. It's bright and it's sunny and it's all happening in midday and there's no attempt to obscure things with shadows. And I love that its whole visual style. And then I like the mounting dread, how you know that somehow he's able to, for a long running time, maintain this constant, it doesn't open and it's nice and fun and friendly and then it builds. It opens and there's already palpable dread and then it just gets more and more sort of intense as it goes till it builds like to a crazy emotional crescendo and manages to hold you there for a surprisingly long amount of time. So a real technical achievement that also I think is a real kind of emotional gut punch with a absolutely mesmerizing lead performance from Florence Pugh. This is definitely one of my favorites of the last decade.
No, yeah, for sure. Anthony, what do you think?
I got to agree. I think this is S tier. I know Aaron's in the chat and he's gonna love an A24 pick. That's because that's a style of his. But this movie, the way Lion said is great, is that it doesn't go with the normal horror tropes of everything's done in bright sunlight. It starts off so dark. It starts off just with a gut punch to you immediately, going, "This is not the movie you're thinking it's going to be." And then just goes like, oh, look at everything. Everything's nice and bright and sunny. Like maybe things are going to turn out okay. And Florence Pugh is great in it. The amount of emotion she can portray in this film is incredible. The way it ends is just brutal. And there's a lot of parts. It's just kind of like, man, it's just like, oh, this is really nice. Gut punch. Oh, this is really cool. Gut punch. And we're going to end on a hat. No, we're not. But it's a really well done movie. It's very creative, and just the acting in it is really good. And I just appreciate the fact that so much of it is it just seems bright and cheery, and it's definitely not. So yeah, S tier. The back of the S tier for me would be probably pretty good.
All right, sounds good. Marc, what do you think?
I can't disagree with S tier on this one. It is top notch, and if you've seen enough horror movies, I think you go into a movie like Midsommar knowing full well where it's going to end up. So then it becomes it's a matter of the singer and not the song, and the singer is just belting this out so well because, as people have pointed out, it's done in broad daylight. There's flourishes that you're not expecting to happen. That we know that we've got a good idea of what's going to happen, but it's the journey getting there and how it's developed that it doesn't quite take the predictable turns or even the turns where, okay, it's in this person's nature to do it. So it doesn't feel like, oh, this is the point where this person has to do that thing because that's how it happens. It everything feels natural to the people that are being depicted. There's enough surprises, and when we get to that finish, it's a doozy.
All right. Well, for me, S tier as well. I can't disagree.
Sure.
Man, the opening is, opening is amazing, and it just, like you said, taking place in the daylight, that sense of dread that's maintained throughout the whole thing. Ari Aster does a wonderful job with his direction. It's beautiful to look at, even just on that scale. The filmmaking is masterful in it. Even the sex scene is both disturbing and funny at the same time, which is kind of a hard line to path when they're all kind of encouraging it, so to speak. But everything's great about it. I won't spend too much time about it. I'm a sucker for good cult movie, and this is a really good cult movie, so S tier for me as well.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I would probably just echo a lot of what you guys have said. It's another weird Ari Aster movie that just ends with a bunch of naked people doing something weird at the end, but but building up to it though, it's just great. Like Florence Pugh just gives a mesmerizing performance, I think, and then also you got a little bit of a little bit of humor from Will Poulter's character, just kind of commenting on what the F's going on, like someone used to tell all these girls that they're walking stupid, or all these weird things that he's noticing. These something's not really right here. Something's off. Like he's kind of the first one to really kind of like comment on it. But for me, I just like all the different theories because by the end of it, you just wonder what's going on. Have they been brainwashed? Are they really buying into this? Are they being mind controlled? Like what the heck's going on? And it has such a disturbing ending to it that I almost used the little sacred temple as the logo for the episode at first, but I had a hard time finding a very clear picture of what I wanted, so I wanted something different. But yeah, I just think that it's just like super creepy in a movie that kind of looking at it from the outside, you're not really sure how creepy it's really going to be. It could just be this fun road trip through Sweden, but then things that take a very, very dark turn. So yeah, but that being said, I'd give it an S tier for sure. I think it's a definite S tier. So yeah, Brandon, what do you think?
Well, Brandon, is it unanimous, or are you going to be the dissenter?
I was gonna say, I'm not sure if my vote matters at this point.
Yeah.
But no, I echo everything that you guys have all said. There's really not much more I can say about it other than you guys all summed it up perfectly. This is a horrifying movie. It's so full of dread in all the best ways possible. For me, for my own personal taste, I think I'm gonna be the contrary. I'm gonna put it down at an A tier. I'm gonna be the contrarian that ruins the unanimous vote. For me, I love rewatchability. I love rewatchability of my horror movies, and this is a movie that is full of so much dread that it's hard for me to watch on multiple times. You really gotta for me, have to take long pauses between views. Because it is a lot to unpack, and there is another Ari Aster movie that I think is more my taste, more something that I would.
It'll probably come up, Brandon.
It'll probably come up. But I like a little bit of even if it's underlying, it's a little bit of I don't know, camp, to a certain degree in my horror movies. That I think the other one does a little bit better of a job, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But for me, this is a really great film, but just based on my own personal taste and the rewatchability factor, for me, I have to give it an A.
All right. Well, I think though
Well,
that
Jordan, it's
based on the
had 5
consensus-
S votes, so right now it goes to the top of S tier for right now. It's had the most out of anything so far because I'm keeping
True.
the tally
Yes.
here. So as of right now, it's at the top
Well, I'll throw it up there for now, and we'll kind of
for
see
now.
where it goes.
I guess I'm messed up. I have rewatched it like at least 3 times. I've seen it so at least maybe four, definitely at least 3.
Hey,
Well, because there's the
there you go.
director's cut, so I had to watch at least that.
Right.
Yeah. So remind me where we're at. Are we at Anthony?
We're at Anthony. Anthony,
Yes,
you
right.
get your turn.
So you're up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know there's a couple people in the chat that are obsessed with this film. One who may have a tapestry of all the stuff behind her in her thing. But we already did a Dread A24 one, which was one of the ones I was going to look at. So I'm going to go something a little different, something I really enjoyed, something a little bit of a different style of movie that I think we have here right now. I watched this maybe last year. It has a sequel that is not nearly as good, but it's a Korean film with zombies. Train to Busan is a
Damn it, Anthony! Quit taking my picks. What's the matter with you?
I think we yelled at each other last time about this too.
Right.
So this
Where's it
movie is
at?
really well done. You know,
So
it brings out it's like kind of the generic zombie thing, but it is a really
Here we go.
it is a really good. You have the father-daughter situation in there where they're not really close, and it kind of forces them to get closer. It forces a bigger relationship between the two. And just when you have this zombie thing where it's just train to train to train, it's enclosed spaces. Everybody is closer. You're getting so many different personalities, so many different ways of how are you going to survive? Are you going to help? Are you going to hurt someone else? Are you just going to run? Are you going to take someone down so the zombies get them and you can run away? There's a lot of things going on with this. So I really enjoyed this movie. I'll throw it into S tier because I think it was a lot of fun. Zombies.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, what do you think? Train to Busan.
I am not going to challenge the S tier status on this. I think it found an original angle on the. I don't know if these would be zombies or, as Deodato would say, infected people, but but it I think it was extremely effective in just telling a personal story amidst the end of the world, as it were, and just showing how all of these support systems breaking away and people just being left to their own devices for good and for ill, and never forgetting its primary story and figuring out how to balance that against the horror, and it's terrific.
Yeah, definitely. Austin, what do you think?
Well, Mark, this is truly the best infected people movie of the decade for sure. And this one is S tier. I just rewatched it 2 hours ago, literally, and it just works. Everything about it works. It's so creative in how it keeps upping the game, even in a premise that could get repetitive with them just going through this train full of zombies, how they keep figuring out new ways to fight them off, and crawling through the baggage parts up top, using the cell phones to distract them, using the tunnels to figuring out that they're kind of blinded in the tunnels and going around them. You actually grow to care about the character arcs. I forget his name, Anthony, but the bigger guy that's with them, that's like fighting them off, barehanded through the whole movie. You actually care when he sacrifices himself. And there's another guy who's just a total asshole on the train that keeps screwing everybody over and over again. And you have to admire his will to survive. I'll give him that. But yeah, you hate him with a passion. And yeah, despite it being from Korea, the Koreans, it's a phenomenal movie. I think we definitely need some international flavor on the S tier, and this is definitely one of them.
Well, all right. Well, we'll have to go back to it. Again, I have not seen Train to Busan, but it's one of those ones that I didn't really want to rush through it because we could have tried to squeeze it in. But the thing is, you want to read all the subtitles, you want to take it all in. So I actually think that after this is over, that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my night. I'm going to watch Train to Busan tonight, and I'm going to take the time to actually read the subtitles. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'll have to abstain besides that, though. So we'll go to Brandon. What do you think?
I'm also gonna have to abstain. Unfortunately, I
Oh.
am Train to Busan.
We're always on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. This is actually something that came up on my channel recently. I was in a discussion with a friend about this movie, and he adored it. So I'm sure if I did see it, I would probably have it right up where you guys think it belongs in the S tier as well. But don't count that vote. I have not seen it.
Right. Well,
I agree with all of you guys. I think Train to Busan is an S tier film. I think it's similar to what I was saying about Crawl. If you could find a way to not only satisfy the horror fan who wants to see a new spin on getting away from zombies on a train, and these are cool looking zombies. I just like the zombie design and the makeup and the style of them. But if you can also involve me in the story of this dad and daughter, this relationship, doing both, satisfying both those within the same context of one movie is really tricky. And I think this movie does it incredibly effectively. I do think it's also one of those things of we've got so many zombie movies now, and so many of them are so similar that when one comes along and really does manage to carve out kind of its own little corner of the genre, I think that's really notable and impressive in a time when there's a glut of so much zombie content. I think Train to Busan pretty much perfect right where it is.
well, all right. Well,
yeah, with the votes that we have, it's pretty much right where it is. Yeah, right there in the S tier, right there, kind of mid-level, right there.
All right, that sounds good. So, Mark, you're up. So, you want to pick one?
This is going to be unusual because I'm putting this into B tier, but I really want more discussion on this movie because even though I've got some issues with it, I haven't stopped thinking about it since I first saw it. And that is David Pryor's The Empty Man. It's that I felt like as I was watching it, it was borrowing elements that I had seen in other horror movies, urban legends and doomsday cults and other curses, but there was something about the whole presentation of all of these elements and the assuredness that it was done with. And it's a long movie. Some of these movies are long. Midsummer's over 2 hours. Train to Busan is over 2 hours, and this is I think 2 hours and
17 minutes.
Yeah, yes. You really feel the length on this one.
It is. It's definitely. Yes, you do feel it, but I think in a way it's effective because it is. Whereas it's the opposite of Crawl. It's not about trying to build get your endorphins going up, and it's more about just really breaking you down into a feeling of oh shit, almost like Midsummer, like we're not gonna get out of this mess, are we? and it has it has an appropriately bleak resolution, but an impressive one that I didn't quite see coming. And I feel like it's one of these movies that got buried by Disney after they picked up 20th Century Fox, and I feel like the ambition behind it deserves to be recognized, and thus we should be talking about it more. So that's why I'm bringing it into the conversation.
All right, sounds good. Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one I blind bought at a Redbox because I saw Chris Stuckman's video about it, so I was morbidly curious about it because he was talking about how it deserves a cult following. And I watched it last night, and I kind of go right with Mark right there in the B tier, only because I really liked a lot of the sequences. It does have ambition. It's shot much better than your average, say, like a Bye-Bye Man or a Slender Man, which is taking, just to me, it's trying to be like 5 movies at once. And I don't know if it quite gets to like an S level on any of them because it's trying to be a cult movie and The Ring and Slender Man and a little bit of The Happening with people like killing themselves. Like it's trying a little too much. And I think if they had narrowed it down and he had locked in on just a few of those elements or one or two of those elements, I think it could have been even better. And yeah, this one you feel the length on. I don't mind a long movie like Midsommar or Train to Busan as long as it justifies the length. I don't think it quite gets there. But I have thought a lot about it since I saw it yesterday. It's definitely a few things about it that have stuck with me. That opening 15 or 20 minutes, if we were just grading that as like a short film, I would be like S tier for that short film. It's really good, but it's like a B level for me too.
Well, I'm gonna have to abstain once again because I haven't seen it. But one of the awesome things about doing this show is before this show happened, I never even heard of this movie, so it just kind of opens my eyes up to movies I maybe never would have heard of before, and would have never brought any attention to my world, So it's definitely one that's going to go on my blind spot list to eventually check out for sure. So, but Brandon,
Jordan and I were on the same watch schedule. I'm also
this
movie.
Yep.
Well, to be fair, this one's harder to find. It only even physically has a DVD. It doesn't even have a Blu-ray like at all. So I mean, it's tougher even to find. So fair enough.
Yeah, coincidentally, I just watched this I think last week myself, so I'm very fresh on this one too. I would think probably more of a C if I was just gonna plunk it down here with a grade, but I don't think B is unreasonable. I kind of agree with what Austin was saying. It feels like it's trying to do a lot, and I admire the scope and the grandiosity of the vision, but I don't know if it's tying all of these ideas together that effectively. And by the time you get into the third or fourth formulation of what this movie's going to be, it started to grate on me. And I was just like, oh, okay, just wrap it up. I think where it leads is probably the least satisfying twist, like where it ends up and the final sort of reveal, to me, not quite as interesting as some of the culty stuff, the like Suicide Club kind of homage stuff that came before. And I agree with Austin. It does have a very cinematic, cool 15-20 minute prologue in the mountains where you get into the mythology behind it that I thought was really cool. I mean, very stylish, a lot of interesting ideas, probably too many ideas for one movie, probably like 2 or 3 horror movies worth of ideas, and zeroing in and fine tuning it and making me care more about this particular formulation would have helped. So yeah, I mean, I points for ambition for sure. And I don't have a problem leaving it on the B tier here.
Anthony, have you seen it?
Good.
In my first time on the 2 shows we have, I have not seen this movie. I tried to find it before this because there was some talk about it.
It's on VOD. You can rent it on Amazon Prime and iTunes right now for.
Well, like I said, I bought it at a Redbox for $4. I bought the physical DVD, so to me it was still worth my $4 purchase. Overall, but yeah,
that's where I saw it. I just rented it on Amazon.
I'm intrigued now, but no, I've not seen this one to give the ranking.
Well, right now it's the only one in the B tier, so it can stay in the B tier pretty easily right now. I think it's fine.
To put it, if we were borrowing from Scroat season on the league, this is my suicide Scroat.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. Love it. Well, Austin.
All right, so I'm going to be ambitious with my S tier pick, but based on what was said earlier, I may have a friend in Lon on this one who is not on screen anymore, but maybe he'll back me up once he gets back. But I'm going to go with Flanagan's other movie on this list, and that's Oculus.
All right, let's see. If you see it, let me know.
Center. Dead center.
Yeah, almost right in the middle above Belko.
Yep. There you go.
Right next to Fright Night.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so this might be a little ambitious, but I personally feel this is maybe the most underrated and overlooked movie of this decade. And Mike Flanagan, what he does with this movie is pure genius because he takes a fairly simple premise. Lon, I'm going with Oculus, by the way, because I had a feeling you'd agree with me. So we're talking about that. Anyways, I just started talking about it. So, Flanagan, he takes a premise of like just this sort of possessed evil mirror, but he plays with the premise so brilliantly, and that you've got this brother and sister and what they do, kind of exploring the powers of this thing and trying to solve this mystery of what happened with their parents, and the way it goes back and forth from playing the perception of reality back and forth in the time periods, and you don't know exactly what's real, and you do the characters like, or what they're seeing is real, what it's not. He just takes such a basic premise and just brilliantly twists it to where you have also some very smart characters. I love what oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it. Karen Gillan. Her character, does with her. She's a smart character. Like when they start to play with this mirror, she's like, I got all these tripwires, all these booby traps, and these things to cut it off, and all these alarm clocks, and like she's thought about every premise you could think of, and yet the mirror is still outsmarting her. It's a really smart script, really smart direction. I think it's the most underrated movie of the decade that more people should see and love. So Oculus, I'm shooting my shot for S tier, and I'll see what happens.
Well, I will say that I saw Oculus actually for the first time this morning in preparation for the show, and so I'm very fresh off of it, and I loved it too. And also helps that it has two actresses that they've always had kind of a little bit of a crush on, in Karen Gillan and Katie Sackhoff together. So like I'm totally fine with that, and just the whole premise that like with this mirror that just like when Karen Gillan's going through all the different deaths that this mirror has caused, and how the mirror just kind of takes on a life of its own and actually tries to defend itself, and just puts all these elements into people's lives that are just crazy things, and it's like you don't know what's real or what's not, and like almost like in a way kind of has a little bit of a mind control effect on some of these people, and like just kind of makes people do these crazy things and see crazy things, and I had a lot of fun with it. I would probably give it an S tier also. Like I don't know how high I would put it, but a solid S tier. Like I'd vote maybe low S tier, but I mean I'll give it an S tier for sure.
That's kind of where I would vote. I would put it like in the 9 or 10 of the top 10, like not quite as high as the other ones, but I think it deserves it. But anyway, sorry about that. Didn't mean to cut you off. Brandon, what do you got?
No, you're good. Yeah, Brandon.
I'm actually gonna have to abstain from this one as well. This is literally the one Mike Flanagan movie I have not seen. So if you ever need help ranking Ouija Origin of Evil, I know where to put that one. But unfortunately, not Oculus.
Definitely rank
or
that
Hush.
Hush.
Hush. Yeah, Hush is really good.
Well, Lon, what do you think?
I'm all about putting Oculus on the S tier. This is my favorite Mike Flanagan movie, and I feel like at his best, he's like a magician, where he's showing you, he's like, here's the trick. I'm going to tell you up front how the mirror works, so that you know, so that you can watch, and like it's like seeing a really good like sleight of hand artist at work, where he's showing you, appears to show you everything he's going to do, and then still manages to like upend your expectations and turn things around on you and surprise you in ways that you didn't see coming. He kind of does it also in like Gerald's Game and that first season Haunting of Hill House too, especially how he plays around with like the time, like showing you things on different timelines, but it's confusing. You don't know when things are happening in relation to each other. It's so well done in this. It's so well performed. And I'm still not over that effect of him laying out in the first 10 minutes, here's how the mirror works. Here's how it's going to mess with you, and then still managing to successfully mess with you, even after he's established the world and the rules, is like a high wire act. It's just really impressive to see.
All right, Anthony.
Yeah, definitely. But Anthony, what do you think?
It's been a while since I've seen this one. I will be honest, but I have seen it. I really enjoyed it. It was very creative. It was really well done, like the forward, back, and the ending scene kind of always sticks in my mind for some reason. Of all the parts, I remember like that last moment. But I would probably go a little bit more, but it didn't absolutely blow me away. I do think it was a little better than Dr. Sleep. I'd probably put it higher A, but it feels like with how this is going, it's going to wind up in the S tier anyway. But I would go higher A for myself. I really do enjoy it. I think it is a really well done movie. I think it's very creative. And the acting is great, but from what I remember seeing it, I wasn't overwhelmed. It was just very good.
It's worth a rewatch, Anthony. Just let you know.
Yeah, I probably need to. I have a lot of rewatches I gotta do.
Yeah.
Mark.
Well, Mark, what do you think?
I have never seen a single Mike Flanagan movie. I feel so
Wow.
naked and humiliated right now because I hear such wonderful things.
He might be the most consistent horror director of this decade so far. Just every one of his movies has been really solid and really inventive and creative.
Yeah.
So
I feel like if you're gonna watch one, this one to me sums up the Flanagan vibe the best out of all.
Flanagan
it's got like
formula.
all of the stuff that he does is sort of reflected. I didn't even mean to do that in
Well, Jordan, it kind of goes right where it is right now, kind of in the mid lower S tier. So that's where it kind of stays.
Yeah, that's a perfect spot for it. Yep, we'll leave it there.
Excellent.
So
Jordan, it's your turn.
So I want to go with a movie that actually, when I saw it, I kind of had a lower expectations going in. The movie actually blew me away. So I got to go with Lights Out. So when I saw this movie, I remember that I saw the little short that they did, and I was like, how are they going to take this and make it into a full-blown, full-length movie? And it was David F. Sandberg, right, that directed it. So yeah, like he knocked it out of the park. I think like he made an amazing movie. I like the whole premise of just having this kind of supernatural entity that just kind of shows up whenever you turn the lights out, and then you have Teresa Palmer trying to just protect her little brother from this entity, and like it just kind of plays on the whole trope. Like for anyone who's ever been afraid of the dark, do not watch this movie because it's not going to help you like at all. It's not going to make you feel any better. You're going to be way more afraid of the dark, and like just seeing the trailers for the movie when they first came out, just really kind of like I wasn't really sure. Like I really thought that the trailers were great, but at the same time, I was like, this is just a little short film. I'm like, how are they going to make this great? And it was awesome. Like it just blew me away, and I would give it a solid S tier for sure. So, but we'll see what you guys think. Brendan, what do you think for Lights Out?
Yeah, Lights Out is a really enjoyable. It's a solid horror movie. It has, like you said, like it's this amazing gimmick that really shined through in the short film that David F. Sandberg first made, and then was able to translate it into a feature-length film, and it just works really well. It's a very solid, well-made horror film. David F. Sandberg, with this and Annabelle Creation, and of course Shazam, which is not a horror movie, but still very well done. He's a very a very competent filmmaker. Does like a really good job, and I really enjoy Lights Out. It's not something I would consider to be an S tier. I would say to me, like it's something I really enjoy. So I don't like, it's like a low A, maybe high B. It's something I really enjoy watching. If I stumble across it on TV, like I will watch it all the way through and have a great time. But it's not one that comes to mind when I think about the best of the decade. So I would put it like low A, high B.
All right, fair enough. Lon, what do you think?
I'm not a huge fan of this one. I feel like it does what so many like Hollywood kind of ghost monster haunted house sort of movies do. It has that very like post James Wan sort of feel, like we're in the Insidious, we're in the Conjuring verse, like it has that feel. And I don't know if it really distinguishes itself enough from all of the other movies. I think James Wan actually produced it, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know if it really distinguishes itself from the rest of like the past decade haunted house monster ghost movie sort of pack. It feels a little tropey and generic to me. And I don't the monster itself, the lights as the gimmick is a good idea. The story that they came up with where it's like this malevolent spirit that's tethered to our world through Maria Bello, it's all just kind of cookie cutter generic stuff that I didn't really find that interesting. The scares, the style, the aesthetics are there. I just think it's a little flat. I would probably keep it in the B range.
All right. Well, Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I do enjoy this movie. I think it is a good gimmick. It is when they turn the lights out, you see the thing. It's creative. It's well done. Clint, get out of the way. It is a lot of fun, but it just like kind of like Lon said, it just kind of felt like a lot of stuff that you've seen before. You kind of get this idea of something's tethered to this person. It's creating havoc in someone's life. So it's a fun watch. I'm not sure if it's better than a lot of stuff in the A. So I think B is a good range. It is a fun watch. It is entertaining. It's creative, but I think just the overall plot seems a little bit kind of just meh. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where would you put it?
Fair enough.
Anthony.
B.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, Mark, what do you think?
Mark.
I have not seen it, so
Okay.
I'm out of the conversation. I like Shazam.
Right. That works. Shazam was great, but Austin.
Jordan, had you asked me about Lights Out before I rewatched it today, I probably would have said A or S. And today it was like a B watch. It was right in the B tier. It didn't play as well on my rewatch. Again, I think the premise is excellent. It's very good. I like the fact that we have a lot of smart characters in the movie, to where like even Billy Burke in the opening scene like figures it out pretty quick, like what's going on. He still gets taken out, but like he figures it out very quickly how to stay safe, at least in the short term. And then you have one of the most brilliant, quick decisions in any horror movie I've ever seen when the guy is getting tossed around in the garage and he quickly hits his panic button on his car alarm to make the lights go on. And it's like one of the best quick decisions I've ever seen in a movie, like split-second decisions. Great. So really smart stuff throughout the movie. But yeah, kind of like what everybody's talking about, it kind of played more like Insidious in this view to me, which I'm not as big on the Insidious movies. So yeah, S level premise and a B level overall, especially on rewatch. So it goes B for me.
Yeah. Well,
so it kind of goes above the Empty Man right now because I have more votes.
Right. Well.
Sorry, Jordan. We apologize.
Hang on, I'm gonna put it above that. At least put it above Empty Man. So
sure.
But yeah, we'll throw it back to Brandon. So you're up.
All right. Well, first of all, I will not have any Insidious slander. I do love the Insidious franchise personally.
I think, to be fair, Brandon, Insidious on our previous show, we talked about the 2000s. I think it made our honorable mentions. It made like the top 13, I believe.
I'll tell you what I love about the Insidious movies is that it's the only big studio franchise that revolves around like an elderly woman character. It's so cool that there's at least one Hollywood franchise that's built around like a senior citizen as the lead.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
There's so
Lin
many
Shaye
good
fan.
movies. Yeah, Lin Shaye's great.
Yeah.
There's still great ones we haven't even talked about yet. Like I think S level stuff we haven't even mentioned yet.
I
have one that's I have two. Yeah.
There's definitely some S level.
Yeah, you might want to start
here.
You might want to start aiming for the S level since we're getting down to we're kind of,
Yeah.
This is everybody's last pick, probably.
Well, not quite. We do a quick Hail Mary round after this round. So, but just where we fire off rapid fire, looking for unanimous stuff. But you can still nominate whatever you want in this round. But maybe shoot for A or S to kind of get up into that list.
I'm gonna go something that's S for me, but maybe not for everybody else. But it's my turn, and I'm gonna do it. Damn it! I'm gonna say The Invisible Man is S tier for me personally.
Let's see, where's it at?
Down in the bottom corner.
At the bottom.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, why do you say S?
Yeah, so for me, Invisible Man is an S tier because I'm someone who, like, recently in the last 5 years or so, really grew an affinity and a love for the classic Universal monster movies, and seeing over the decades them trying to bring those movies back to life, Dark Universe. It's been really tough to see them try to figure that all out. But to have Leigh Whannell come in and give this new take on a classic Universal monster that goes back to the roots with its like simplicity. They're not trying to build a giant cinematic universe. It's not an action movie. It's not like it is a lower budget, like horror movie that is just relies so much on the tension in the room and this ominous feeling that there's always somebody around you, and this dread that comes with it. And it's so well done. It's a movie that's full of surprises. And obviously, with not too many theater going experiences last year, this was my favorite theater experience last year. And Lee Winnell has grown to become. He's always been an amazing writer of these horror movies that he's partnered with James Wan on, but he's really come into his own after Upgrade and now Invisible Man as a director. He is. I can't wait to see. I think he is actually doing Wolfman now, so that is something to be seen. But he did such a great job with this movie. Elizabeth Moss is amazing, and for me personally, to just my own personal taste, seeing a classic Universal monster brought into the modern age and done really, really well, I just can't say enough about how much I enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, for sure. Lon, what do you think?
I was a big fan of this movie, and it's taking this premise and thinking about it in a different way that I think is so exciting. Like, we've seen Invisible Man movies before, and of course the classic Claude Rains Invisible Man movie, and it's really about it's so from the Invisible Man perspective. It's like, here's the thing that happens and the discovery that he's invisible, and what am I going to do to get become visible again or navigate these new powers of this new world. And I think this one is looking at it from purely, what if the Invisible Man was purely the villain, and it's an unknown factor for most of the movie, and to explore that, I think is a really interesting take. Elizabeth Moss just absolutely kills it as this character that could be the center of a non-horror story. I mean, I think her story could be effective even if the horror element was not there. And the one other thing I would say is that restaurant scene, I don't want to blow it if people have not seen it, but this builds to one of the most shocking, disturbing, and just crazy horror movie moments that I can recall. If you could build to even a moment like that in your horror movie, I think you've nailed it. So yeah, I have no problem leaving this on the S tier.
All right. Well, Anthony, what do you think?
I got to agree. This movie really kind of blew me out of the water when I saw it, because I did not expect it to be good. I kind of went in expecting Invisible Man. Obviously, The Mummy did not go well. I know they're trying to get that universe started, and it was a rough go to begin. But this movie was excellent. It's bringing in the Invisible Man for the modern age instead of it being a chemical process. He's got his own suit, so he can change in and out. He can be around again. He can pretend to be all the spoilers at the end. But like Lon said, that restaurant scene was the first thing when Brandon said Invisible Man. I was like, that restaurant scene is absolutely a epic moment in that movie. One of the best scenes of the year. Just the way you sitting there, it seems so nice. And you watch the knife and you're like, whoa, what's about to go down? This movie's great. I really enjoy it. I hope that they continue with this, and especially with Elizabeth Moss, because she's fantastic in it. So I'm hoping for more, but that definitely thinks it deserves to be S tier.
Yeah, definitely. Marc, what do you think for Invisible Man?
Oh, Invisible Man was one of the best movies of last year, and one of my I think my next to last theatrical experience of the time. And it just the way that it ratchets up the fear in its protagonist. Elizabeth Moss is so brilliant in the circumstances that she is being dealt with, and just the empathy you feel of feeling like you know that you're right, but you cannot get anybody to believe you, and not even in a hostile way. It's just that what you're talking about is so absurd and just sounds just implausible, and the the socio-political ramifications, let's bring those out. They are absolutely spot on, and really zero in on a primal fear that so many people who have lived through abuse deal with, and this is the perfect manifestation of dealing with those kinds of scars. So yeah, this is one of the best.
Yeah, for sure. Austin, what do you think for Invisible Man?
It's a really strong A for me, just because I can't put it quite above some of the other movies we haven't talked about or some of the ones that are brought up so far. Like I don't enjoy it more than like Cabin in the Woods or Train to Busan or anything like that. But really, really good. Lee Wan-al has proven himself to be a very competent director. I mean, between this and Upgrade, like we were talking about, he's great. I even love just some of the fight choreography you can tell he brought from Upgrade when as the Invisible Man's just fighting guards in a hallway, you know, like just how they stage all that kind of stuff. Like it's been mentioned before, the restaurant scene is one of the biggest WTF moments in a horror movie in a long, long time. I really like a lot of the elements in this movie. Just I can't put it above some of the other ones we haven't talked about or some of those we've talked about it right now. So it's like a strong A for me.
Yeah, and for me, like I think that I would echo Austin. Like I think that for me, it's probably a mid-level A for me, just because like I wasn't really even that blown away the way so many people are by the movie itself, but I was by Kate Moss's performance in it though. I think she really carries this movie same way that she does with The Handmaid's Tale. Like she is just an incredible actress, and I mean she has a lot of starring roles in her future. I feel like, yeah, for that I would give it an A. I can't quite go S, but I mean just that I mean you guys all already mentioned it, but the restaurant scene is just like a crazy scene, and like you're just waiting to like see like oh my like crap what's gonna happen, you know, and so yeah, and just like the way that they like did the invisible stuff, and it kind of brought a bit of a modern spin to it, but didn't make it too cheesy or too campy, because I kind of thought, oh well, maybe the whole suit, they have some kind of suit technology that's going to be kind of cheesy, but it actually really wasn't. So I mean, I would give it a solid A. So that's where I'm at.
Well, I think it goes above Oculus and kind of around Train to Busan territory right now, based on my scores here.
Yeah, I mean that sounds about
kind of mid S,
right.
Strong S. Mm-hmm.
Right on average. So yeah, so we'll throw it over to Lon.
Throw it over to Lon. What do you got?
I have one more S tier left, but I feel like I'm probably the only one here one of the only ones here who has seen it. So I'm gonna take a chance on this one. All of you feel free to be like,
Lon, if it's one not enough people have seen, we'll let you nominate another movie. So you might as well shoot your shot.
But let's shoot the shot. Ben Wheatley's Kill List. Let's talk about Kill List. Not enough people have seen this movie, so if you take one thing away that I'm recommending, if you haven't heard of it, you're the third from the bottom, third row up on the far left,
right above the
far left column.
There you go. So this is. It starts off very much like a drama, like even like a Ken Loach drama. It's about these former British soldiers, and they're forced to sort of take on a job as contract killers because there's no other opportunities for them once they get home from the war. So it starts off like this kind of crime drama, but then the contracts that they're working, the people that they're killing, they get led down into this very bizarre culty conspiracy that turns it sort of left turn at about the halfway point into a very dark and troubling horror movie. And it's just that turn is so masterfully executed. The way that the movie really sinks its teeth into you as a drama so that you're incredibly committed to these characters and invested in this scenario, that when it then does take a really horrific turn, it's overwhelming because you've already really married into this whole scenario and these guys and their lives. And so it becomes even extra troubling when it does make that turn from sort of almost, kind of realistic, low-key domestic crime drama to over-the-top, balls-to-the-wall horror. So I really recommend that. Ben Wheatley, I think, is just a generally underrated current filmmaker. I like a lot of his movies that have kind of flown under the radar. Free Fire and A Field in England are two others that I recommend.
Right on. Well, Anthony, have you seen Kill List?
I will say this: you have my interest. I have not seen the movie. I looked it up for this in general just to see, and I was like, "This is one I need to watch." This is awesome. So I haven't seen it, but it will 100% be on my list to watch probably this week or next.
Well, Mark, what do you think?
I have seen Kill List, and I am as enthusiastic about it as Lon is. And I was rating it at an A solely because when I was putting my list together, I thought that I should only have so many S's. But you know what? I am gonna bump up to an S on this one. Let the we've got other nominations. If they're stronger, it'll go down. But I'm going to give it a fighting shot because this one is a big old haymaker to the chest.
Yeah. Brutal.
Well, awesome. Austin, have you seen it?
I have seen it, but literally it's been like 10 years since I saw it because it came out in like 2011, I believe.
Yeah, we're in the 10th anniversary. Yeah.
Right. I'm pretty sure I saw it through the Netflix mailing your DVD thing when I was doing that 10 years ago. And I remember seeing it on somebody's horror list that year and rented it. I remember liking it, but it didn't hold my attention as well from what I remember. And that the only stuff I really remember thoroughly is a lot of the third act stuff. Without spoiling it, I'll just say the cult stuff at the end, which without really spoiling any of the details. I enjoyed sort of the procedural element to it, but it didn't stick with me because, again, I haven't remembered a whole lot. So to me, an S-level movie makes an impact on me personally, and I just can't put it that high because it just didn't stick with me that much at the time. So I go like a B level for me personally, but I have seen it.
All right. Well, I have not seen it. So, but
you don't have to say obviously. It might have come on.
No, this is one of the more understated ones. Yeah, this is not one of the obvious ones.
Probably seen the least of out of these movies, but I do like. I just kind of sitting back and getting a lesson from the professor, Lon, just kind of explaining what this movie's about, and like I'm really intrigued. So like I definitely want to check it out. So yeah, it'll definitely be on my must-watch list. But yeah, I won't be able to rank it here, so I'll throw it to Brandon.
I will also have to unfortunately abstain. I have not seen this film. But definitely, I wasn't even aware of it, so it's good to know that it exists, and I will have to check it out as soon as I can, because you guys are speaking very highly of it.
It's great.
Yeah, for sure. We have at least 3 votes, I feel like. So we got 2 S's and a B, and I kind of feel like maybe A is about
top
right
of A is fair because you have 2 S's.
I think that's fair.
And totally for a movie that not a lot of people have seen, Lon, I think that's pretty high praise. So it still has a chance to get up into the discussion. So, all right.
Well, Anthony.
All right. There's a lot of really good movies on here left.
Shoot for that if you can.
One I've had to watch a couple times this year just for writing question stuff that I really enjoy, and mainly it's due to 2 of the actors, the main hero and the main villain, are fantastic. Because I always enjoy watching a villain when in every other movie he's in, he's a hero. Because Patrick Stewart is absolutely horrifying in Green Room. I thought I really enjoyed this movie. I thought this movie was really well done. It's a very creative concept. And just Patrick Stewart as like the head Nazi is just absolutely horrifying. Just how calm and how just he takes everything one step at a time. But then the Anton Yelchin is also incredible in this film. Just it's so condensed. It's in a small space. There's not a lot of room to run around. There's a little bit of the gore element in there, which maybe sometimes is a little unnecessary how far they went, but I really enjoyed it, watching it a couple times. Just every time I watch it, it just gets better and better. Them trying to escape this area where they are drastically outmanned. So I'm gonna throw in Green Room, throw in another A24 on there, and see what people think.
Well, Mark, what do you think?
I'll go with the S as well. That Green Room. For a while, I was thinking of it more of an action film than a horror film. But I mean, what is more horrifying than being outflanked among people whose very cause is killing anyone who isn't them. And just being among people who are not prepared for this sort of thing. And I mean, people are not prepared for a zombie outbreak, but zombie outbreaks are not very likely. Taking a wrong turn or accepting the wrong invitation and being stuck among white supremacists, that can happen, and that is frightening as hell.
Sure.
And the tension, the bloodshed, that is a strong one.
Yeah, definitely. Austin, what do you think?
I like Green Room. I give it a solid A. Not quite S level for me personally, because I did rewatch this one leading up to it because I hadn't seen it since the theater. Another one that I really wanted to rewatch. It's good, but I think it leans more into action or survival than horror for me. And again, just when I'm thinking about my personal S levels, it has to reach those levels of the stuff we've talked about earlier. It just doesn't quite get there for me, but I think it's really, really good. Patrick Stewart's great. Rest in peace, Anton Yelchin. He's amazing in everything he's in. I've liked almost every movie he's done. And I like Green Room a lot. It's not quite S level. I give it a solid A.
Yeah. For me, I got to be the one to center the group for Green Room. Sorry, guys, but for me, like, I'm just not a huge gore fan. Like, I feel like some of the stuff is just way over the top when you literally shoot someone in the face and their face instantly turns into hamburger meat, and I'm kind of like all right, that's a little like unnecessary. But I mean, I'm a huge Patrick Stewart fan, but I do like him being the evil bastard of this like kind of like almost like a cult sort of like a Nazi group sort of thing, and like I do love Anton Yelchin, but the movie just didn't really resonate with me that much. And so for me, like, I'd probably give it like a C, honestly. Like, I'm not a huge fan of it, but that's just me though. I'm probably in the minority. So Brandon, what do you think?
I am unfortunately once again gonna have to abstain. I have not seen Green Room yet.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. So Lon.
I mean, I like Green Room a lot. I think that what Jeremy Saulnier, the director, he does it really well in this, and his previous one, Blue Ruin, is like, I love a movie about people who are forced to do violence, but they're not good at it. Like so many movies, they do that thing where, oh, it's a regular person and they're in this over-the-top situation, and then suddenly they just become like masterful, or like, oh, well, they were special forces before this, so they know exactly how to kill dozens of people. And Green Room is like, even the villains, it's like the ineptness and the awkwardness of real world violence, like people trying to stab or shoot or kill each other, and they kind of don't know how to do it right. And so it's messy, and it's not, they're not efficient killers. And I think that he captures that really well. Like when regular people collide and things turn violent, as opposed to when like John Wick is in a situation and it's efficient, effective killing. Having said that, I feel like it's probably more of an A movie to me than an S. I don't know if it's like a classic of the genre, but I think it's good. It's satisfying. It's very claustrophobic. Patrick Stewart's a great villain. So yeah, I'd probably put it as like a high A.
Well, I'm kind of thinking that maybe it's
based on my scores, it kind of has very similar scores of Evil Dead, only with one slightly lower one. So it goes right below Evil Dead, kind of mid A.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
This helps when I'm kind of keeping track on my little chart here. This kind of helps.
Yeah, right. Right, it definitely does. So we'll throw it to Mark. What do you got?
Okay, I'm gonna throw out an S level that I don't think we've discussed enough, and that is The Guest. That it's taking a really not necessarily a horror archetype, but it is the stranger who comes into a household and pretty much gives everybody what they want. And what happens when you find out the price that everyone around you is paying to get what you want, and what the stranger's intentions are, or if you can even truly know them. Because it sneaks up on you. You don't know just how sinister and dark this movie is going to get until you're already deep in the soup. and it's got just a really charismatic leading villain and a very resourceful heroine to go up against him. That it's it's not that the teenage girl she's not like skilled, as Lon said, she's not prepared for this, but she rises to the occasion in terms of, well, what would she have to work with and how would she figure things out on her own terms? And, it was another movie that I saw twice in its theatrical run, and I really want to give it love.
All right. Well, Austin, what do you think?
Well, I'll give it 2 rankings. It's not a horror movie. I would vote not a horror movie for the guest. But I would also put it in the A tier as a movie. I just feel like it's more of a thriller because I think when you get to the point where he's just having shootouts with a SWAT team and he's just walking into a restaurant tossing grenades and he's just having bar fights, I don't think that's a horror movie just because the final sequence takes place at a Halloween dance. And with a horror-ish score, I don't think that quite makes it a full-on horror movie. So I don't really think it belongs in the S tier of a horror movie list of the 2010s. But as a movie, if I had to give it a vote, I would give it an A. I do really like it as a movie. I just don't think it's a horror movie.
All right, fair enough. And I have not seen this movie. I feel like I want to give it some love just because of Brendan Meyer, but because he's a cool guy from the community. But I've never seen it, so I can't really. So I'll sit this one out. All right, Brandon.
For me, I refuse to watch anything with Brendan Meyer in it, so I'm gonna have to.
All right.
I love the guest. I think that it can count. I can consider this a horror movie. He is a movie monster in all but appearance. Like, he looks like Dan Stevens, but in every other way he functioned as like a classic sort of movie slasher or killer, but especially once you get through like the second act. And I think that it's another movie that kind of plays around with a theme I keep coming back to, which is it's just satisfying as a story. They're just good characters. It's interesting to see the interplay in this family and how he has this effect on them, even if you take out the scares and him becoming sort of diabolical by the end of it and like a force of nature. So I think it's effective on dual levels, and I like both of Adam Wingard's films of this period. I think You're Next, which you did sort of right before this with a lot of the same people, is also really fun, effective sort of indie thriller. So I'm a big fan. S tier.
Well, S tier. Okay.
All right.
I was going to ask you where you put it.
Yeah, S tier.
Well, Anthony, what do you think?
I also really enjoyed this movie. I was kind of with Austin when I saw it on the list, thinking it was more like a thriller than a horror movie. But Lon makes a lot of sense. It's not the typical movie monster, but he is just a monster in general as a person, and that happens in a lot of these movies where the monster is just a regular person that is just terrible. I don't know if I like it as much as something like a Crawl or The Evil Dead or Green Room, so I'd probably put it in the A tier. But this is a really well done movie, and I'm glad Marc brought it up because I just really enjoy this movie. I just wasn't going to because I found it more of a thriller, but it's really well done. But A.
Yeah. Well, what do we have, Austin? We got a couple S's, a couple A's.
We've got 2 votes, but the 2 non-votes are for not a horror movie. So I feel like it can't really make the top 10 if it's not a horror movie. And we had 2 votes that it wasn't a horror movie. I just, to me, that's when I'm keeping track of it. I think it can be maybe like near the top of A and maybe make it into the honorable mentions for some love.
I'll accept that decision.
But something like that.
It'd be fun to kind of have a wild card because what we do with the list. So I run the Facebook group Showdown Friends and Family. I'm gonna do a little poll tomorrow to see what the fans think of our top 10 plus 3 honorable mention. So it might be kind of cool to have a little wild card, see if the community agrees with if it's horror or not horror. So it might end up there.
That's a whole debate to me in itself, whether or not it's a horror movie. So I think we could have a 30-minute debate on that, but we'll save that for another show. But anyways.
Well, Austin, you get.
All right. So I'll go with a quick, hopefully fairly obvious one that we haven't brought up yet, and that's It Chapter 1.
Yeah.
Way down in the bottom corner.
Let's see. All right. So you say S tier. What do you say S?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's maybe the best big budget kind of mainstream horror movie we've had in the last 5 years or so. I mean, I think at least with chapter 1, chapter 2 is a whole nother discussion, but at least with chapter 1, I think it's an absolute grand slam. I think the kids, you could have a whole movie just with these kids doing their thing and hanging out and being part of the Losers Club, even with just a little bit of the horror elements, and it would still work as a movie. The fact that you also get a reinvention of the Pennywise character from Bill Skarsgård, and it's a fairly good one. You get some really great imagery with the different shapes he takes, and the fact that he's changing his appearance and all that based on the kids' fears and things. I think all that's really well done. The movie looks beautiful. It's acted beautifully, especially for when we're talking about child actors. I think they're all fantastic. I'll keep my thoughts fairly brief, but I think It Chapter 1 absolutely deserves S tier for being probably the best blockbuster horror movie, I'll say, of the decade.
Yeah, I would agree, and like I'll just echo like exactly what you said, and then just add that It Chapter 1's probably the very last horror movie that I remember seeing in a packed theater with a sold out crowd. Like I remember just seeing it in like the theater, which is absolutely packed. And I really missed that experience, like being able to see movies like that and be able to experience it in that type of a way. Like I saw it in this big giant IMAX theater, and like it was just like completely packed in it. And just the way that like the movie's kind of like Goonies meets like some supernatural elements meets like a horrible scary clown, just like and it was like super well done, really well written, I thought, and just like some of the lines from these kids just like really made me laugh, but at the same time it just, like kind of creeped me out. And so like yeah, I think that for a big budget horror movie, this is probably one of the best in the past 10 years, I would say. So I'd say S tier all the way. I didn't rank it maybe even high S tier. We'll kind of see where it ends up, but I love this movie. But Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I really enjoy this film. This is actually the first film that I ever got to see in like a Dolby Cinema at AMC theaters. This was my first experience. I used to live in Connecticut, and like things that come out in Los Angeles and like New York long before like somewhere like Connecticut. So I had known these theaters existed for a long time. I just never got the chance to go. So right when I first came out to California, it was the first movie I ever got to see in a Dolby Cinema. Really loved the experience. It's such a well-made movie, like you said, Jordan. As far as like a big budget, like blockbuster type horror movie, it is very rare to see those movies be as like well made as this one is. It Chapter 1 is such a great film to watch, and I'm also a big fan of It Chapter 2. I know a lot of people don't necessarily feel the same way, but I think Andy Muschietti did such a great job of bringing this story to life on the big screen, where a lot of people thought he wouldn't be able to do it. So for me, it is a high A, low S. Really love this movie.
All right. Well, Lon, what do you think?
Yeah, I was not as big a fan of this one as everyone else. It kind of feels to me like it's less a story and it's more like a pretty well done series of vignettes. Like it's very good at, here's the scenario. It's this kid and this painting is going to come to life and it's going to chase him around and look real scary. And like, there are a bunch of scenes like that that are individually effective. But I don't know if I was really brought along on like the journey with these kids or really invested in the world of these kids. It just kind of feels like a lot of the Stephen King iconography and ideas thrown out there. And then these like individual, really well done set pieces. And I think It Chapter 2 only even more so. It becomes, all right, well, we'll get all these characters into this town and then they'll send them off on their own adventure and they'll each have like a spooky experience. And after a while, it's just like, okay, it's repetitive. It's a character enters this scenario and Pennywise appears and it's some sort of like visual effects set piece where an unexpected thing happens, or there's an animated element that's spooky and comes out and scares them, and then the kid runs away, and it's just kind of that over and over again. And I don't know, it's fun and it's cool without being like, when it all comes together, I'm like, ooh, that was a great movie, I feel like, transported by that story. So to me, I feel like chapter 1 would probably be a solid B.
All right. Well, Anthony, what do you think?
I mean, I did enjoy the movie. I liked the movie a lot. I mean, still, Tim Curry holds a place in my heart as Pennywise, but I mean, I guess technically it's not like really a movie. But Bill Skarsgård did really well. There was some weird CGI elements in this that weren't great. Like Lon said, it's kind of bit by bit, but that also could just be them trying to take over Stephen King's writing, because a lot of that book is like, oh, here's a scene, here's a scene, here's a scene, here's what you're getting, because they're trying to switch back and forth. So to try to do the movie where they're switching back and where they're keeping the kids, then the adults, when the book goes back and forth a little bit more often, it's kind of hard to do. I would probably put it into an A tier. The kids were very good. For a bunch of children actors, they did an excellent job. And obviously Pennywise was horrifying. Bill Skarsgård did a great job. I thought he definitely had that element of fear that really add to the kids. But as a movie overall, I'd probably put it into, it's a solid A, in my opinion. I don't know if I'd have it in the S, just from how I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, Marc, what do you think?
I'm kind of with Lon in the low A, high B tier. That I enjoy the film. I think it. I haven't seen chapter 2 yet, so I don't know how it pays off. I mean, I've read the book, and I think it did a decent job of trying to distill a huge book into what matters most in terms of talking about, these children and their traumas. And, I thought it, the actors did a great job and, tapped into primal fears, but I don't think it's much more than just an above average Stephen King adaptation. And I know that sounds weird the way I just phrased that sentence, because an above average Stephen King adaptation would be pretty damn good, because there's so many mediocre ones. It's that I like it, but I just don't like it as much as some of the other movies that we have mentioned or not mentioned. So it's just a high B for me.
Okay.
All right. We've got a couple of B's.
We had two A's, kind of a borderline A, B, and then two B's. So I think it kind of goes around where like Dr. Sleep is right now, kind of mid A.
That's fair enough. I mean,
Crawl.
I think I would even
something
put it
around there.
Just under it. I feel like that maybe right there.
Around there.
That's at the butt, right? But yeah. So I'll get to my last pick here. So I want to definitely give some love to my favorite director. Well, we should say my favorite modern director. There's a bunch of old school ones that I maybe like a little more, but I'm a huge Taika Waititi fan, so I gotta go with What We Do in the Shadows. I absolutely adore this movie. I think that if we want to have a comedy on this list, I mean, this is the comedy to have on the list. I think that it has enough creepy elements to like still consider it a horror movie for sure. I mean, I just seeing these like weird kind of like just off the beaten path vampires that are from New Zealand, just kind of just doing their thing, just kind of acting like they're normal people in a sense, just kind of trying to acclimate into society, but not reveal that they're vampires. Just all the crazy shenanigans that they get into and stuff. It just like cracks me up every single time. And I'm 100% on board the Taika Waititi train. So, I mean, I am a huge fan of this movie. I know we're not talking about the TV show, but the TV show is great. I definitely recommend for anyone to go check out the TV show for sure. So, yeah, I am going to give it an A tier. We'll see what you guys think. Brandon, what do you think?
All right. Well, I know we're really close to the end of the show here, but unfortunately, I do have to head out. But so if you don't mind, once I get my votes on this movie, I'll unfortunately have to leave you guys to do the rest of the voting. But I love What We Do in the Shadows. I adore this movie. This is a film that is so good. I've watched it like a dozen times, and it gets funnier every time. It is layered with jokes and like information and like just like it's like such like a dense movie, but in like one of the best ways possible. Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement directing this film together, it is like so brilliantly from their minds. It is one of Taika's best and I really do adore this movie. Based on like the principles of like where I voted with Tucker and Dale and where I voted with Cabin in the Woods and even Happy Death Day, I'm gonna have to put this in the A just because like it is, even though it's got those horror elements in spades, it is very much a comedy film, like a laugh out loud type funny movie for me personally. So for that, I can't have it at A. I'm gonna put I can't have it at S. For me, it's an A tier, but boy, do I adore this movie. And
well, Brandon, if you have to go, I understand. Do you have any quick just movies you want us to talk about in our Hail Mary round and bring up and show some love before you leave?
Yeah,
and
like,
we can maybe just have like you represented as like an S vote. You know what I mean? And we can talk about them.
Sure. I think definitely, since we alluded to it earlier, I got to throw Hereditary up there as an S.
We'll probably talk about that. Yeah.
If nobody else, nobody else brings it up, and yeah, you know,
I'll jot them down here.
Yeah, The Conjuring 2, or The Conjuring 1 and 2. I mean, either or really.
Okay.
I meant TOO, but I see that Conjuring 2 is also on there.
Right.
I love those movies. James Wan is such an amazing filmmaker. I would say those are the ones that I would probably want to talk about the most in terms of like S tier, high A movies that are still left on this.
Okay, well, we'll run it by the panel in our final round. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me on. Really
we'll let you run it.
Yeah.
If you have anything you want to promote, real quick.
Like if anything you want to plug, get it out there.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BrandonHannah07. I also have a YouTube channel of my own, youtube.com/BrandonHannah, where I do a weekly science news show. And I also talk about movies sometimes and sometimes science in movies. So if you're into that sort of thing, go over there and check it out and hit that subscribe button if you feel so inclined. But once again, thank you guys so much for having me on. This was an absolute blast and I would love to come on again.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, you're always welcome back here. We got an open spot whenever you want it. So
perfect. All right. Thank you guys so much. Don't want to take up any more of your time. All righty.
No, it's all right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
I know you were saying you have to go soon too.
Yeah,
but do you want to give your thoughts? We'll give your thoughts on what we do, and then maybe if you want to throw out the same what Brandon did, maybe some love from some like S tier votes for this final round we'll get into. Then we'll represent you with the vote. All right.
I mean, to me personally, I have a hard time considering what we do in the shadows as horror. I know it's in the world of movie monsters and horror, but it's such a well done sort of comedy mockumentary. It's hard for me to think of it that way. If we are going to consider it horror, I would definitely say it's an A tier horror film. I actually think I like the TV show a little more. I think it just goes a little deeper into the psychology of the vampires. It gets to the relationships better. So on that level, I think TV show I'd probably go with an S. Film I'd probably go with an A. But very well done. A very clever sort of update on the both mockumentary style and a fun take on vampirism and the sort of real life mechanics of living forever and being an immortal bloodsucker in like a modern world. The stuff we have not talked about yet that I think you guys should talk about, obviously Brandon throughout Hereditary. I agree. Another one, there's two more on this list I was really eager to say something about that I will leave to the panel. That would be the Vitch or the Witch, however you want to pronounce it. I'm a big fan of that one and The Lighthouse, both of his movies, but especially that first one. And then Overlord, the World War II Nazi zombie experiment movie. I'm also a big fan of that and how it's sort of just relentless. I mean, it's just like war movie and then horror movie and you're just plunged from one scenario to the next and it never lets up. So I'm a big fan of that. So I definitely say you guys should talk about both of those while I'm gone. And just follow me on Twitter at LONS. That's the best place to find me and keep up with all the stuff I'm working on.
All right, awesome. Well, the same thing goes to you. Whenever you want to come back, we're going to be another decade of horror next month. We're going to be doing 80s, and then probably after that 90s. That's kind of what we're thinking.
Well,
and then we're going to finish it off with 70s, and then we're going to have a big horror battle royale at the end with all of our top 10s from each decade going up against each other. We're just going to be the toughest show ever. So
you know how to get in touch with me. Well, I'm sure we'll see each other again, folks.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Good one. Yeah, thanks again. All right. And then there were 4. So, yeah.
The OGs.
But Yep, that's
We'll
right.
get back to our
OGs
original
in the
thing
house.
about Anthony, about What We Do in the Shadows. Where would you put it?
All right,
Yeah.
What We Do in the Shadows. I'm kind of with what they both said. I really love this movie. It's a lot of fun. It's really funny. It's not a horror. This is less of a horror movie than The Guest, because it's just so much comedy. And yes, it has horror elements because they're vampires, but it doesn't have horror elements like as much as Tucker and Dale or Happy Death Day do. I enjoy those movies as horror movies more than What We Do in the Shadows. What We Do in the Shadows, I enjoy more than a lot of these movies on here because I think it's really well done and creative. Like Lon said, the show's better. I'll put it into the A tier. It's probably going to the bottom of the A tier just because it has such little horror in comparison to some of the other stuff we have in that A tier. Would be the only reason. But it is a great movie.
Oh yeah. Well, Mark, what do you think?
Everyone else has kind of summed up my feelings that it's an amiable movie, and I enjoy it. And Taika is a good bloke, but it's not a horror film. So I would say I'd rate it a high B. That I think it's funny. Although I think some of it is a little twee, but that's just me. But I still think it's a good film, but it is definitely not horror for me. It's just that's not its intention, and thus it should not be its ranking.
Yeah, fair enough. Austin, what do you think?
IMDb, Wikipedia, and several others define it as a horror comedy, so I think it absolutely belongs on the list. And to me, it's S level 100%. I love What We Do in the Shadows. It is it might be the best horror comedy. I put it even personally, for me, this may be blasphemous, above Shaun of the Dead as far as horror comedies goes.
Same.
I think it's even better. I think it's amazing. I think it's super sharply written. Just incredible characters that they've taken. Even the stuff like I want my werewolf movie, even like the spinoff they've been talking about forever of What We Do in the Moonlight. Just from the little bit that we get from them, I think this world that they set up is great. Of them like going to clubs at night and they have to be invited into these clubs, and how they bring people into the mansion and play a little game of hide and seek and tag with them to suck their blood. Like I just love everything about this movie. What We Do in the Shadows is a strong S level for me, man. I dig it so much.
And I always think about the sketchy scene where they're eating spaghetti and then they try and make it think that they're eating worms or something.
You like a bruschetta?
Yeah, the bruschetta. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, might have enough votes to maybe say it's not a horror. But I mean, I kind of I love it so much. I would fight for it to stay on the list. That's just me personally. But I mean, overall, I don't even know if it's going to make the top 10. I mean, we have enough votes for A kind of.
The votes that we had are kind of right along the Tucker and Dale area, so we kind of put it down near Tucker and Dale territory.
Yeah, so I mean,
I have it on my thing.
For that since it's probably not going to make the top 10 anyway. I'm just going to leave it there, but I did definitely want to show it some love for sure. But,
all right, so now what we're going to do?
The Hail Mary.
Yeah, we're gonna. If you guys think there are any on the list that you think have a shot of getting unanimous S votes, I think let's throw them out there right now and see if we can get them up there.
Yeah.
All right. Want me to go first?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right. I will throw one out there. I'm between two right now. And you know what? Since we've done all these horror comedies, I'm not going to do the one I'm thinking of. But I am going to throw in It Follows, because this movie really caught me off guard when I saw it. It just, as we talked about the Invisible Man having that, is somebody in the room? Is somebody there? Is somebody around? The It Follows has that. Who's the one following me? Is somebody here that is trying to get me? I understand it's basically like a STD type thing. Is kind of the idea of it, but you to think somebody is constantly following you, to never know who it is, to no matter where you go, somebody's coming after you, and the only way to do it is to get rid of it, is to put this on somebody else, to make them now be the victim, is a very hard thing mentally to think about, and you can see how the first girl she couldn't handle it anymore, tried to run and it didn't work. So I really enjoyed this. I'm going to throw that as a potential Hail Mary because I thought that was a really creative, well done movie with some pretty solid jump scares and just a solid premise.
Yeah, for sure. So, Mark, what do you think? Would you go S tier for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go
Yeah.
S tier too. So I think it deserves to be up there. Jordan, are you in or have
Well,
you
I'd
seen it?
be totally in for it, but the sad thing is that I actually own this movie and I still haven't watched it yet because I have a handful of movies that I actually bought just on a whim because people told me that they were good, but I haven't had time in my schedule to actually watch them all. So this is one that I'm going to watch very soon because I own it. But I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, I've seen enough trailers and things to be like happy with the S tier. So like with the three of you,
Well, we had 3 S's, so I mean,
yeah.
at least
I'm
low S
totally
is,
down.
I think it works.
Yeah. But
Mark,
do you have
throw something out
any?
there real quick.
Well,
Yeah.
I know it was alluded to earlier, but I kind of understand why no one has brought it up because of the really unpleasant details that have been revealed about its creator. But you have to give a devil their due, and I have to nominate Color of Space.
Okay.
I'm not happy with what I've learned about Richard Stanley. I considered myself a fan, but the film itself is still outstanding, and I can understand why we might not have wanted to talk about it. But in these few moments, let's at least acknowledge that the people who worked on it did a tremendous job, especially again, Brendan Meyer and Nicolas Cage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, I was lucky enough up here in Asheville, an art house theater was playing it for 2 weeks, and I went and saw it, and goddamn, that movie blew me away. I loved Color Out of Space, and I thought it was definitely S level. I love Lovecraft horror. Like, I'm a big fan of like From Beyond from the 80s, things like that. We'll probably talk about that on that show. Stuff that's like Lovecraftian is right up my alley. I think it's got one of the best pieces of body horror in a movie I've ever seen. Nick Cage is unhinged. Nick Cage is great, but Brendan Meyer's awesome. Tommy Chong is perfectly cast as kind of the kooky woods guy. He's really great. It's beautiful to look at. Like that purple pink kind of aesthetic to the movie is gorgeous. I love that stuff. So yeah, I'm with Mark, S level. I don't even know what he's talking about with the Richard Stanley stuff. I haven't looked into that. I'm not even sure what you're talking about, but I love the movie.
Yeah. And for me, I've heard just what kind of inklings that Richard Stanley was involved with some pretty crazy stuff, but with some like physical abuse and that kind of stuff. But I mean, but also I haven't seen the movie either, so I can't really say much. But I mean, I am the kind of person that can separate the art from the person, So I mean, I'd be totally able to just go watch it and be able to separate that. That's just me. I know not everybody can do that, but I would definitely give it a shot. But I have not seen it, so I really can't give it a ranking. But Anthony, what do you think?
This one's tough. I really do enjoy this movie. Again, I also did not know anything until I literally just looked it up because I was curious. But just based on the movie alone, I do, as I said earlier, love Nick Cage. Think he's great. And this is, again, one of those in that realm of 3 fantastic movies he had back to back to back. I would put this in this, as I'm looking at the top of the A tier. I like this movie better than some of those top ones, so I'll put it in the S tier, probably in the lower realm, but I do think it belongs there. It's very creative, and like Austin said, the colors of it are absolutely beautiful. The way it's shot is really impressive.
I think it's like a 9 or 10 in a top 10 slot. You know what I mean? Because I don't love it as much as like Cabin in the Woods and Train to Busan, things like that. But like I think it deserves some love. I think it's one of the better ones of the last probably year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
all right. I think it's perfect where it is right now.
Yeah.
So next, do we throw out either Get Out or Hereditary for the S tier and see where it goes?
Sure. I mean,
I guess I'll throw Get Out there and see if anybody we'll just see if anybody disagrees. I don't know. I don't know if I got to make a lot of been said about the movie. So
I would say S tier for Get Out. I mean, I'm just trying to find.
Did you add it to the list or not?
I don't think it's on there.
You forgot to add the poster, didn't you?
Probably so, because I remember that I probably added it, but didn't quite make it. But I mean, it was meant to be on the list. So if we want to keep it in the top 10, it definitely belongs. And for the poll, I mean, I have the graphic literally on my phone here. So I mean, I'll add it to the poll tomorrow. So
hey, I tell you what, put Jordan Peele's lesser movie Us in place of Get Out, and we'll know what that means.
Right. Yeah, we'll do that. So like, this is the representation of
Get Out.
Get Out, yeah. So unless anyone objects to Get Out being in the S tier, we'll leave it there.
No.
No.
It's the same. Is it the same with Hereditary?
I mean, I kind of say I'm more of an A for it, but I mean, I'd be totally fine if it made S tier. It's not going to really.
I go S.
Bother me, but I'd maybe say
Anthony,
say
Mark,
A.
you guys go S.
Just because I think that the director did a little bit better movie with Midsummer. So like for me personally, I would go with that for Ari Aster. But I mean, I'm totally fine with it though. But Anthony, would you say S?
I mean, it's like right on the back end of it. Again, I think it's a better. Do I enjoy it more than some of the movies in the A tier? No. Is it a better, more well done horror movie than the movies in the A tier? Yes. So I would probably put it top A. So
I think the Toni Collette performance is better than almost any performance on the list overall.
That is true. Yeah, he gives an amazing
so I think that alone bumps it at least into the S tier. Again, yeah, not as much as Midsummer, but I think that performance is better than any of the performances in Midsummer. But Midsummer is better to look at, and I think has a better sense of dread. But that's just me. Mark, what do you think?
I have no objections.
Okay.
Right.
Is there any other ones you guys think are obvious ones?
So I mentioned
I would
I don't know, that one.
I would throw in the Babadook.
Yeah, the Babadook I would throw in there as well.
There's a good.
I rewatched it today. The Babadook was awesome. I rewatched it again today. I forgot how good that movie was.
Especially like the mother-son relationship in that movie.
There's so much going on in that movie. Like all the subtext you could take from that movie. You could write term papers about that movie, about the stuff going on in there.
Yes.
With the mental illness and the depression and and the grief stuff, like everything about. You could make a paper about how the Babadook is not even the villain of that movie. That he's just trying to bring the grief to a head in that movie. And like introduce and try to make the mom deal with it, you know what I mean? Showing her the levels it can get to if she ignores it. Like literally in that book, there's a scene in that book, Mark, where she opens it up and like it's her strangling the kid and then slitting her own throat. Like the Babadook is almost warning her what could happen if you continue to ignore this in your life. So like I mean, you could even take it on a whole nother level.
The only thing that I would say about it is that the Babadook, like the actual way that the character looks, he just looks like a cartoon. He doesn't really look like anything that really like really frightened me. Just because,
but it comes from a children's book. That's the point, though.
Yeah. So, like, understand that. So, like that's just a real minor nitpick. I mean, I'm on. Well, totally on.
I would put it above like Kill List. I would put it in place of Kill List, to be honest, because I think it's pretty overwhelming. Like at least mentions. Because I don't think enough people saw Kill List.
I think honorable mention. That's yeah. I mean, we could do it there. I mean, I think like right at the top, honorable mention.
That works.
I would put it above Hereditary. I think it's got a little more meat on its bones.
I kind of think so too. Like I would agree with that.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You got Hereditary down in the honorable mention.
Hereditary to top of A.
No,
Anthony, what do you think?
No, that's fine. The Babadook is great. The first time I saw it, I was like, man, this movie's great. Then I watched it again. I was like, oh my God, this kid is killing me right now. Like, I could not handle that child for most of the movie, but
so annoying,
for it. He is supposed to be just broken. So I get it. But that was sometimes rough to handle. But yeah, that's more rewatchable than Hereditary. And they're both well done movies. So I would put that on the S above it.
Okay.
Now, do we have any arguments for The Conjuring? I know a couple of people just mentioned that.
I'm not as big on the Conjuring movies as everybody else is, but that's just me.
I like them, but they don't go above some of the stuff.
They don't go above the stuff we have right now.
True.
You know, I've seen the first one. It's fine.
Yeah. There's two on here that I like more than a couple of the others.
Shoot them up.
Well, the Witch, however you want to say it, is great.
I don't like. See, I'm not a fan of the Witch at all. I hated the Witch.
That's understandable.
I thought it was.
I'm like so. I'm like right in the middle on that.
Yeah, I don't like. I don't like the Witch.
I like the Witch quite a bit.
I'm not a fan of it.
The only other one I really enjoy is Ready or Not.
And I've never seen Ready or Not.
Ready or Not was a fun midnight movie in my bag. Not top 10.
It's more comedy though.
I want to at least show some love to two movies, and I'll probably be alone on this one. But Troll Hunter, I think, is the best found footage movie of the decade. I think it's so good. Like the premise, the stuff you get into with the troll lore, and like how much you learn about that movie, as well as getting into the stuff. The fact that it has the found footage, but it pulls back on a lot of stuff, and you actually get to see everything, and it doesn't do the shaky cam the entire time. I think is awesome. And then I was going to show some love to Underwater, which I think is like super underrated and really great. Like almost like The Descent, like great stuff that has the Lovecraft stuff at the end with literally like a Cthulhu monster at the end. I think it's awesome. I loved where Underwater went.
I'm not a huge fan of Underwater. I think it's like kind of like a wannabe Aliens movie, and like I don't like Kristen Stewart too. So that's just me, but maybe in the minority. I don't know.
I didn't see it, so
yeah.
Underwater's good, man. It's underrated, really good.
Troll Hunter's really good, but I don't know if it goes to the top 10 or even top 13. But I'm
not saying about top 10, but I like it more than some of those movies we have in the A tier right now. Because I think, again, I almost think like having the best found footage movie of the decade is almost like worth it. I think it at least should be in the honorable mentions. Like I think it's better than.
I don't know if I'd like it better than like Dr.
Crawl.
Sleep or like It. Like I don't know if I could put it above some of those, but
I don't know if I can put it above that. But again, I think Kill List is like really high for a movie that not a lot of people have seen.
Yeah, that is true. Like I do kind of feel like something needs to maybe replace it. I don't know, but what about A Quiet Place? Do you think that would be up high enough? Like I really like that.
I have not seen the original Quiet Place, so I.
It was definitely one of those that was like really fun to see in a theater because you had to be like dead quiet. You couldn't even like crinkle your bag of chips or like.
I mean,
people would get pissed.
I think it's very good. It's a very well made movie. I'm just kind of looking at the top 3 right now, like, because with The Quiet Place, am I putting it above Dr. Sleep? Am I putting it above Evil Dead or Crawl? Probably not. Or Green Room? I'm probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
I haven't gone back to A Quiet Place since I watched it in the theater, which I think is a testament to the movie. Like I kind of got everything out of A Quiet Place that I needed to get out of it when I saw it. Like it's really well made.
Nobody's seen the sequel yet? Because the sequel is out.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't either. But I think this is kind of what we have here. We just kind of.
I think something should replace Kill List in the honorable mentions. Because I don't think enough people have seen that one to really be on the list. I understand Lon loves it.
I think probably Dr. Sleep for me. Like that's what I would put there. But
Dr. Sleep or It or Troll Hunter. I don't know, one of those.
Or even Troll Hunter. I mean, to have a found footage, that's kind of something different, you know. But
I feel like I should give some love to the best found footage movie of the decade. That's all. That's my only point. Is that I think that deserves to be acknowledged, given that genre is like mostly not good. To have a really, really good, solid one. And it's a little more international flavor from Norway.
But yeah, so like I think the like basically for me that comes down to Dr. Sleep or Troll Hunter. I don't know if you guys have any other things you want to throw in there for an honorable mention, Marc or Anthony.
Well, let's see. Not high enough to really get into the honorable mention. We'd be getting into low A, high B territory on, the ones that I would bring up. So.
Well,
Anthony,
what about you?
Yeah, I haven't seen Kill List, so I'm not sure like where it would go. I would just put probably Dr. Sleep in front of it. I mean, I get Troll Hunter because you do get a found footage, you do get a different style. It is a good movie, but it's not as rewatchable as Dr. Sleep. I thought.
Yeah,
there's almost more of an educational movie about Scandinavian lore as it is a horror movie. So I would put Dr. Sleep in front of that. like I'm always going to go for the Evil Dead, but I don't think I'm winning that battle. So I'm just it is where it is.
You could, I think,
What
bump
kind
up Doctor Sleep into the kill list thing.
I think
for the
so,
honorable
yeah.
mentions. Okay, that's fair enough. Because I like
do
it a
kinda
lot.
like-
I just don't think it's like
Yeah, I do
top
kind of
10.
like having
but
the
yeah, I
guest
liked
in
it.
there. Like just kind of just have like a wild card. If when we do the poll that like people can kind of have the debate, like, well, like, is it really a horror movie? And like we can see like the chaos in the chat and see, like, I can just picture it, like that's not a horror movie. Oh yes, it is, or whatever, you know. Just kind of going back.
So
and
now
forth.
we play around with the top 10. Does anything stand out that needs to be moved around in there?
Yeah, so you want to give it a definitive ranking. Like for me, I think that the like number one, it needs to be either Midsummer or Cabin in the Woods. Is my
I think
personal.
Mandy's a little high for me. I'm not as high on Mandy as everybody else is. Like, I think it's really good, but it's not very rewatchable to me.
What would you guys say for your like top? If you had to come with like a top like 3, maybe.
I think the only thing I would do, and this is nothing against Mandy, I love it. I would put Mandy on the other side of Train to Busan, and then Get Out's in there. I would move Get Out.
Yeah, Get Out.
Probably right behind Mandy, and then done.
Yeah, Get Out at 5,
fair.
Mandy at 4.
I'd be
Let's
fine
do
with
Mandy
that.
4, Get Out 5,
And then
Yeah,
Invisible
5.
Man go down just a tad. Yeah.
I think that's totally
Okay.
like a perfect list right there for me. But
Yeah,
what do you think, Mark?
I would put Get Out ahead of Cabin in the Woods. Again, I think there's, I mean, even by comedy standards, I think the comedy is stronger and darker in Get Out than it is in Cabin in the Woods. And I think the Cabin in the Woods offers interesting commentary on horror, but in terms of being actually scary, Get Out has it beat.
Can't argue. I can't argue that.
But I go Cabin in the
fine
Woods
with
is
that.
number 1 as well. Like, me and Jordan are both like Cabin in the Woods is like number 1. So
Well, like
do we bump it up ahead of Mandy maybe and it goes to like number 4?
we could put it.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah, like I'd be all right with it. With that, I've never seen Train to Busan, so I can't really say. I would probably like want to put Get Out above it, but I mean, I've never.
You can put Get Out in front of Train to Busan. Train to Busan's still at number 4. I'm cool with that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'd be cool
Yeah.
with that as well.
Yeah. Is that cool?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Just Get Out Get Out really did change like the horror thing for a minute. Like that was
Right.
really, really well done. Train to Busan is a zombie type, infected people type movie, if you will. But it is really well done. But Get Out at 3, I think makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Or either one, I'm good with either.
And also, like the more we kind of talk about Get Out being like a game changer, the more I think about it. Like I would maybe even be okay with it above Cabin in the Woods, but I could flip flop. So
I'm big on Cabin in the Woods.
I love
yeah.
But as a horror movie, I would if Get Out goes in front. If we're doing horror, Get Out is a better straight horror movie than Cabin in the Woods is. Because Cabin in the Woods has a lot more of the commentary of horror than it is a
It definitely scared me like a little more. We had them more of like that subtle kind of like the creep factor for me all the way through, but which like Cabin in the Woods was just in your face kind of thing. But
yeah, I'm good.
I'd be totally fine with that. With how we have it though, like I wouldn't object.
I would put Babadook slightly ahead of Color Out of Space, to be honest. Like maybe Color Out of Space is like a perfect number 10.
I've never seen it. So
yeah, I do think Babadook should be above Color Out of Space.
Yeah.
I would even put it ahead of
maybe
It
even above
Follows.
Oculus. Maybe even above Oculus or It Follows. Yeah, maybe even up to like 6.
Yeah, I mean I'm totally fine.
Because there's a lot you could talk about with that movie.
And also, I'm not a big Invisible Man fan, and that's just me. I don't even think it belongs in the top 10, but I mean, I'm in the minority there. I feel like I don't know if you'd want to move it any lower or if it's good where it's at.
I like it a lot. I'm kind of in that same category. It's like a strong A for me, but I'm okay with it being in the top 10, maybe in like the number 6 slot or so. I'd be okay with you swapping Babadook and Invisible Man, but that's up to the rest.
I think like even move the Babadook above Invisible Man. I think that's like perfect. I'm down for that. What do you guys think?
But this is a consensus show, so please.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, please speak up.
Speak
up.
Go ahead.
Look pretty good right there.
I'm content.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I probably like The Invisible Man a little better, but I also like Babadook. They're probably even. So yeah, I think that's
right in the middle of the top 10. Yeah. Okay.
That's top 10.
Well,
Well,
I think
we'll
once
leave it
again we've
at
got
that.
a pretty diverse thing. And do you want me to break it down, Jordan, and do our final breakdown?
Yeah, and just remember that we have Get Out instead of Us. And you can break
Yes,
it down.
no, I know. Yes, just for the audience, that's not us. That's Get Out. We just forgot to put the poster. Anyways,
that was my bad. I'll take the blame. On
that's
that
okay.
one.
All right. At number 1, we've got Ari Aster's cult film Midsommar. At number 2, we've got the horror love letter that is The Cabin in the Woods. At number 3, we've got Jordan Peele's Get Out. Number 4, we got the South Korean zombie thriller Train to Busan. At number 5, we've got Crazy Nick Cage and Mandy. At number 6, we've got the Australian psychological horror of The Babadook. At number 6, we've got Lee Whannell's The Invisible Man. Number 7, we've got Mike Flanagan's Oculus. Number 8, we've got It Follows. And number 9, we've got Color Out of Space. Or is that number 10? I'm sorry, I lost track. The Color Out of Space, excuse me. And then our honorable mentions. Yeah, excuse me. And then in our honorable mention slots, we've got Hereditary, The Guest, and Dr. Sleep.
All right.
All
Solid
right.
list. So
Very nice.
We got it done. So in under 3 hours. So that's good.
It's kind of how long we went last time too. So our horror shows go long because there's so much good horror, man. There's so much to talk about.
I know.
It's a great genre.
If you're a true horror fan, there's just so much good horror, you know. So you can really appreciate it. So, but yeah, this has been a fun time. Let's see.
And sorry to our other co-host Chris Scott. I do not put Escape Room in the S tier as one of the greatest films of all time. Sorry.
Yeah, he advocated for that, but yeah, I've never seen it.
No, he's alone on that opinion. Maybe in the universe.
It's fun. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fun afternoon cable watch. It's fine.
As it usually is. He usually like has a few oddball things he likes, which is fine. That we all have those to each their own. You know, it's all subjective. So, but
definitely over here.
But yeah, right. So yeah, we'll call it good there. We'll go around the horn and you can tell us where we can find you. We'll start with Marc. Where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter at THE_HOYK. That's the phonetic pronunciation of my name, Heuck.
Okay.
And I do a podcast, a completely non-horror podcast with B. Peterson on the Screen Margins Network. We have a primary podcast devoted to the films of pioneering filmmaker Dorothy Arzner called Dance Dorothy Dance, and we've started a side podcast to that called Friends of Dorothy, looking at some of the other women writers and directors that she worked with during the 30s and 40s. And I have a blog, which is at projectorhasbeendrinking.blogspot.com, where I've written essays and conducted interviews on all sorts of diverse film and cultural topics. And if you go to, I also write for the New Beverly's website, thenewbev.com/blog. You're going to have to hit the load more button quite a few times to get to some of the stuff I've written because the theater's been dormant for a while, but they just opened up for business today, and I'm looking forward to getting back into a theater seat.
Yeah, and Pure Cinema just did their first podcast in a long time, running down the lineup for June, right? So I listened to that the other day. I love the Pure Cinema podcast, by the way. Shout out to them. It's all about the New Beverly and kind of, well, it's a spin. They talk about the New Beverly stuff, but also, you know, they talk about other great unsung movies. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I think, Marc, you would get along really well with our third co-host who couldn't make it tonight, Chris. He's a bit of an old soul. Like, he's a huge Humphrey Bogart fan, Cary Grant. He loves all those old time movies that like way too many people haven't seen, and that like I really like that or when people bring attention to classic cinema, because that's definitely a huge blind spot for me. So I need to watch more. But Anthony, where can we find you?
You can find me all around all the different fan leagues, playing, hosting, managing, all that good stuff, writing, all that. I'm around everywhere. Also, you can find me on Twitter at GETTINTTIZZY, Getting Tizzy. Basically, you're just going to find me talking about the Sixers, helping retweet for my friends, actually my wife's podcast, Digesting Cinema, where they talk about different stuff, different movies, and Digesting the Force, where my wife watches Star Wars for the first time ever, which is very entertaining to sit next to her for. It's quite fun. And then also what I'm watching as well. Find me on there, follow me, I'm around, and then that's really about it. I just appear all over random movie things.
Nice. Yeah, when you say Sixers, do you mean like NBA? Is that what you mean? I'm a huge NBA fan, so one of these days we want to do like ranking of the best basketball players of all time. So maybe we'll have to get you on for that one. That'd be a great time. So yeah. But Austin, where can we find you?
Yeah, so we just started the official Twitter page of the channel. So that's Movie Hero 2121, just like the email address of Movie Hero 2121 @gmail.com. So you can find us there, hit us up. Any suggestions, anything you want to talk about, or anything you want us to talk about, hit us up there. And we're starting a podcast very soon. Podcast League Now, it's coming. And so Jordan's we've got an intro together. We've got little video segments. We've got everything like almost ready to go. We just have to start filming the actual podcast. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. I would say look for the podcast to maybe premiere in about a week. So we're about a week out on it. So, but yeah, and you can find me all over Movie Hero, doing a lot of tier ranker videos. Let's see, our next tier ranker is going to be 1 week from this Saturday. We're going to be talking best and worst fictional vehicles. So it's going to be vehicles from movies, from TV, from books, from video games. We're just going to break all that down. So that should be a fun time. And then I also run the Schmodown Friends and Family page over on Facebook, so you can find me there. We talk a lot of Schmodown, and then we're going to have the poll up tomorrow for tonight's episode, where we're going to have our top 10 and our 3 honorable mentions in there. You can go and vote, and you can let us know where we screwed up, or if we got it right or wrong, or whatever you guys think. Just let us know. So but that's where you can find me. And so there's been a lot of fun. So.
And should we talk about our next decade? We've got a date lined up for the 80s horror show.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I mean, I guess you've already got a date locked in, right? June 18th is what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
For 80s horror, we're gonna hit our next decade, and I know Mark, you said you want to come back for that one, right?
Yes, I do.
For sure. Obviously, Anthony, are you in? Do you want to jump in?
I would definitely be interested. The guy obviously got to check the schedule.
Sure. But Jordan, you have 2 big guests confirmed for that one, right? 2 pretty big ones you've been wanting to get.
We have one. We're gonna have a Mario Moses. He's so yeah, we have him, and then we're also gonna have William Bibiani, and then we are going to have then let me forget who's the other one. Sorry,
Adam Collins.
Oh yeah. And we have Adam Collins. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, Adam. I totally am spacing on you. But yes, we're going to have those 3. So it's going to be a stacked episode. So, I mean, you guys are definitely welcome back for that. So yeah.
I mean, it's got to be a stacked episode to talk about the best decade of horror. I mean, that one's going to be a crazy episode with a lot of great movies. And we thought this one had a lot of S and A movies. Holy crap, the 80s is the best of the best.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, but I have 2 weeks to start filling all my blind spots. Austin sent me this package of like 50 movies I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to all of them, but I'm definitely gonna try to do as many as I possibly can, because I have some holes of some like classic iconic movies that like I will watch at least like the top 10, and Austin's gonna kind of help guide me because he knows his stuff when it comes to that, so he'll make sure I watch the right one, so I'm prepared. And yeah, I won't be saying I haven't seen this one so much. Hopefully next time. So
I'm going to try to help him do his homework for that one. Yes.
Yep. But anyways, yeah, for Mark, for Anthony, for Austin, I've been Jordan, Movie Hero Anderson, and we will talk at you next time.